Okay, everybody, as we start to file in here, everybody mute their microphone so there's no accidental noise, so we can hear all the answers, and we'll do it like we did last time. If you have a question to ask, go down into the text chat and say, "Oh, I have a question," and what I'll do is I call people based on the list that forms in the text chat at the bottom of the screen. Please don't write any questions in the text chat. Please don't chat amongst yourselves. Let's keep it clear so I can call on people who have questions. Okay. Okay, guys. I don't know what everybody's doing up there, but hopefully they'll come down. So, Shamrock, mute your microphone, please. Okay, there we go. Thank you. I just don't want the accidental noise. Last time this went real smooth because everybody followed the rules, so try that again. All right, so it's got 3 minutes till 7 my time, so we'll just kind of start. With us today, we have Daniel Hahn, who is our project manager for the project and for the team. Daniel has been with this team longer than I have. He's been with the team since. Daniel, what year did you start with the team? 2008 or 7?
Hello everyone. I have started with the team in 2008.
2008. So nobody knows our engine or product better than Daniel. And when I visit him in the office, if I have a question or I want to see something, Daniel can whip out a file or locate something inside the game in the file structure in like 2 seconds. It's really quite amazing. So I rely on him very heavily for guidance and information as we develop the project. And he's been managing the schedule and all of the updates and all of the bug fix, everything for a very long time. So we rely on him very much for everything. And also in the channel with us is Sneaksy, Andre, who is here to, he's our build manager. He used to do our QA, and he's also helps me with the marketing, and he speaks good English and writes good English. So he's here to help translate any Russian that might need to be translated during the discussion. So our channel today holds, I believe the server holds 250 people total. Last time we didn't quite fill it up, but we'll see how many we get today. So it's just about 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and start. If I have to take a bathroom break, I'll let you know. I'm drinking my usual drink, so I have to go pee. But anyways, let's get started. Let's have some fun. Before the first question, I'll just give a little preamble. We're working on update 2006. This update is a big one. And by big, I mean it should, if everything continues to go right, it should have 2 big things. One, DirectX 11, which has been in testing and seems to be working quite well. There were a number of bugs and issues that we've seemingly fixed. And the other one is the new scripted campaign mode, which you've seen us talk about on the forum, but really haven't gotten all the details yet. So we're excited about these 2 big features, and there's other smaller changes and fixes that will be in the update. But our plan to revamp and improve Sturmovik is on track. The team is working very hard to get the whole development plan completed by next December. So the pressure is on. 12 months from now, we want to be done with this this cycle of development, and then we can move on to the next chapter. But there's still a lot to do. From our last meeting, we went from kind of the theory stage of what we're going to do, and now we're full on into development of the plan, and we're making progress. So you're going to start seeing more and more things get released as we pass the new year and get into 2017. So that's where we're at. I'll just ask Daniel, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I just want to say that I'm very glad to see everyone here today, and I want to say that we are trying to do our best to achieve our next point, the release of DirectX 11, and I hope that every one of you will like our result.
Very good. Okay, so let's start off with the questions. First question I see is Bando. You have a question.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Bando.
I'd like to ask a question about the AI and the ganging up on the player. Are the devs aware of that, and is there something you can do about it?
Okay, hold on one second. Because we're an international group and not everybody speaks super English and everybody has different accents, it would be helpful when you ask the question to say hi and let us know where you're from, okay? It'll be an interesting experiment. So Bando, where are you from?
All right, hi, I'm Bando and I'm from Holland. I live in Germany, but currently I'm at my son's home in Holland. So you see a Dutch flag.
Fantastic.
And well, the question was about the IE.
Right.
I hope that the question was clear.
Well, this would be one that maybe Daniel can help answer. We're aware of the complaints about it, and it's probably a quirk of the AI that probably needs to be worked on. Our problem is we don't have a dedicated full-time AI programmer. We haven't had a dedicated guy for a long time, and it's difficult to completely revamp the AI if you don't have the resources necessary to do it. But I'll let Daniel address this because maybe he has some better insight than I do. Daniel, any idea?
First of all, we need to know exact claims for AI to understand what is bad for you.
Daniel, what the complaint is, if you don't read the forum as much as I do, which I know you don't have time to do, the complaint is that when you're flying a mission and there's multiple AI, the AI tends to gang up on you. They'll single you out, the player, more so than the other targets in the area. And as your wingmen, if you're not flying with a big group of wingmen, or you're somehow in a mission by yourself, or you're in an area by yourself, or if you're even, I'm sorry, I should reverse that. If you're in a group of flyers or AI pilots in your squadron, you're flying towards a target, during the combat, it seems like the AI focus on you exclusively or almost exclusively, and it becomes almost impossible to escape them, is what users are claiming. But we can run some tests, of course.
If you talk about enemy AI, when
Yeah.
actually there is no difference for enemy AI who are your player or another AI of your country. So maybe a reason is that you're flying as a leader of your flight, and yes, leader of the flight is always priority target for our AI. So in your career, when you will play a role of wingman, you will see that enemies are not so much focusing on you, but they will focus on your flight lead.
Okay, so I'm sure that people in this room will say, well, that's not realistic and we need to change it. So what we'll do is we'll think about it and we'll investigate it, and we'll see if there's anything we can do to modify it. But I can't make any promises, of course, but we're certainly aware of, at least now Daniel's very aware of the dislike for that issue. But okay, so leader of the squadron gets more attention than just a wingman. So now we know. Thank you, Daniel. Bando, does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys are aware, and I exclusively fly as the lowest in rank, so I'm never the flight leader. The problem is that the enemy AI is concentrating on me, say if there are 5 enemies, there are 3 or 4 are dedicated solely on me, even if they're wounded or have no ammo or are smoking or whatever, they keep focusing on me. And that's the problem. So I'm glad you're aware, and I'll leave it to that.
Okay, Mando. Daniel, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Also, when you fly the current campaign and you're flying as flight leader, you are always flying in forward of all your friendly group, so you are closest target for enemy. When I play campaign, I'm oftenly use a tactical maneuver when my wingmans come to target and I fly in a bit above and behind of them. And I see that in that case enemy fighters are focusing on my wingmans, not on me, and this allows me to fight with them more easily. Actually, this is not very historical because a flight leader can do this, and in reality, yes. But this approach shows us that it's not really special flag or something like this on you, that AI should focus on you as player. There is no such flags on you. You are a target as any other target in the air for enemies. So it's a question just how how targets are located. So if you're closer to the enemy, then they will focus on you. If you're far away and your wingmans are closer to the enemy, then enemies will focus on wingmans. So
it's just how the system currently works. It's not perfect. It's not ideal, but we'll take all this under advisement and see what we can do to maybe make it more interesting or more fun. I'm sorry people feel like they're getting ganged up on as a player, but if the AI doesn't give you some attention, you're gonna feel like you're being ignored, and the complaints will be that you're being ignored. But if they gang up on you too much, then maybe it's impossible for you to ever have a successful mission. So sounds like there needs to be some kind of balance with regards to how the AI targets you. But as Daniel says, there's technically there's really no preference given other than they can recognize who the flight leader is. Okay, maybe we need to change that. But also the tactical situation. If you end up closer to the enemy when they spot you, they come after you because you're the closest enemy, or whatever the logic is at the time. So as I said, I know people want us to improve the AI. I just don't have an easy way to do it on a large scale at the moment. So everything we do on the AI is always small, something here, something there. And but I hope over time when we get some of these other big ticket items taken care of and improved, then we can find some time to start tweaking the AI more. But I just don't have I can't promise you anything on when that will happen. But thank you, Bando, for the question. It was a good one.
Only thing what I want to say that current AI is not perfect, of course, and it should be improved a lot in many aspects. But I just want to be sure that you don't think that we have made some kind of arcade flag on you, kill me because I am player. This is not.
Right. Okay, let's go to on the next question. I think Custard.
Hey Jason.
Hey, where are you from? Oh, UK. Okay.
Britain, yeah. Okay, so given that you're looking at implementing the air marshal feature in Battle of Kuban, are you looking to implement any map tools for the air marshal and for the players? And by that I mean, say, the ability to draw a line on the map and get a distance and bearing.
Right. I believe, Daniel, we talked about this on my last meeting about these kind of items.
Right.
And I don't remember our final disposition. It might have been something that we want to do but can't do right away, or maybe we can do it right away. You want to address that? What do we decide?
Current idea is that new career development will force us to make some kind of flight route editing, yes? Like it was in Rise of Light. So this is more than a half of work for these tools for flight map. So we supposing that we will be able to add these tools together with new career.
Okay, so Custard, then it looks like you want the ability to draw lines on the map, to get headings, those kind of features, right? Distances,
it doesn't have
things
to
like
be
that.
permanent on the map. It's simply so that you can get a heading. Whereas at the moment, if you want to, say if you're trying to navigate in expert difficulty without the plane superimposed on the map, it can be a bit hard to guess a bearing from a town to a town, for example.
Just some kind of ruler, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
We want to do it.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. Super. So we want to do it, and we'll try to fit it in. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Custard, for that. Good question. Let's go to Kai Lei. Kai, go ahead.
Helps if you unmute yourself. Good morning. I'm from Wisconsin.
Trump country.
Yes.
As we learned.
So, my question is for something has to do with, I guess you could call new player experience. Currently in the game, there are some tutorials, but they are kind of somewhat limited. I was wondering if it might be possible for you all to design some missions that have tutorial pointers and other things for people who are just getting into the game and trying to learn. For instance, like how to take off a MiG-3. You could set up a MiG-3 on a runway and take it off, or any kind of aircraft. You could select it, having any kind of aircraft you select start on final so that you can land it. Also level bombing at various altitudes and various winds that you can select. And dive bombing, things like that someone who is just starting off that has no experience, really deep experience with simulators could get in there, learn how to do things, how to operate the systems, that sort of thing, and then be able to become somewhat competent in them.
Right. So there's two ways, in theory, we could do this. One is just make a video and embed the video somewhere in the interface where you can watch a video on how it's done with instructions on how to do it, or do the interactive approach, which is what you're talking about, where we have an actual mission. Older flight sims back in the day had this. Microsoft Flight Simulator had such a thing, where you can actually do an interactive training mission and have an instructor tell you what to do. We can do an instructional mission in our mission builder, but there might be some limitations as to how that would operate. It all comes down to a question of time and resources. We had like a basic tutorial with Rise of Flight, if you guys remember, that was a video that explained how flying an airplane worked and the basic maneuvers and stuff. And some people liked it, some people said it sucked. So our first experience with that kind of interactive training wasn't exactly a big hit. We've talked about this internally a little bit recently, about maybe doing some videos. Some people have offered to make some training videos for us. Now, what I've been doing all these years is relying upon the community to train each other. You remember Requiem has a lot of training instructional videos on his website. He's recently become an actual pilot, which is pretty cool. So he's good at instructing people. But as far as putting something into the game itself, I'm all for it. I just don't know what the proper format's going to be. And since we don't have the resources to focus on this area ourselves, I have to rely on some kind of third-party involvement, and that gets tricky because some people can make a good video, but some people don't know how to make an interactive, or not even interactive, to make a mission that has voiceovers and has the instructional information embedded into the mission. So it's not an easy answer. And to do takeoff or taxi, not such a big deal. To do basic flying, not such a big deal. To describe how to drop a bomb on target, more complicated. To describe how to dive bomb properly, more complicated. These things just take time, and this is the kind of luxury item that other development teams and other genres, they have people dedicated to that kind of stuff and don't. So it's just really hard to produce that kind of quality content to help out newcomers. I mean, we're definitely not against the idea. I just don't have an easy solution. And with all the things that we're working on at the moment, like having to create a bunch of content for the new career and the new campaign and then all the other things we're building, it's something that's really awesome and nice to have. I just don't know when or if we can ever get to it. But I'll let Daniel speak on this. Maybe he has some comments because this would affect his life. And I'm sure that he's put a lot of thought into it. But right now, I just don't have a way to do it. And I know I say that a lot, but that's just the world I operate in. So, Daniel, do you have any comments on that idea?
I have nothing to it. It's just a question of finding cool people with cool amount of time to create this stuff.
Right. So it could. So Kai, it could be a mission itself, like you're suggesting, which would be cool, or it can be at a minimum, maybe a video to at least gives people some idea how to do stuff. So
well, there are actually videos on YouTube. Requiem actually has videos on that, and so does Sheriff that are out there. That's why I was thinking it's one thing to watch a video; it's another thing actually to practice the action, which is why and even honestly, even it would be nice for it to be interactive, but even a scenario which just starts a plane in front of a target and then you can practice it, and if you screw it up you can immediately restart it and just do it over and over and over again until you feel comfortable. Even something as simple as that might be useful. But thank you for your answer though.
Right, yeah, no, the best thing to do would be have a series of training training missions that are in a separate section of the GUI. You click on training, you go to this page, and it says, maybe we make a training campaign, and each mission has voiceovers and media embedded into the mission to allow you to do the mission how you want. But to build one of those missions and to do the voiceover and to put the media or the video, or and the voiceovers in the right spot, and have those voiceovers be connected to an action, I'm not even sure we can do that. Daniel, can we do that? Connect a media to an action?
Yes, and we have used this in Rise of Light.
That's
as you remember, that artillery spotting was some kind of this stuff.
Right. Okay. So we could say, okay, hit the E button to start the plane. Plane starts. Then that will tell the next voiceover to say, move throttle to 100% or whatever, and give left rudder and go down the runway. So we can do it. It's just a complicated mission to build. So like Daniel said, we have to find a cool person that has the patience and who's interested in building this kind of stuff. So we're open to it. So now that we have the campaign system, I think a training campaign might actually be something we can work on as a special project with a third party.
It's only problem that if we create in modern aviation simulator, when it's easy to explain what to do to destroy target on the ground. Just turn on this switch, put this mark on the HUD to the target, lock it, and fire the bomb, yes? Mm-hmm. When in World War II, we have a problem because all stuff which is connected to combat, aiming bombs, firing, taking advance when you're firing, and so on, is it's about experience. So I for now I have no idea how make such things interactive. It's simple to create about basic flight, but what about combat? I don't know.
Well, Daniel, I have some thoughts on that, but I'll tell you them in private, and we can see if anything's possible. But so right, Daniel's right. So to teach somebody to dive bomb, we could put you up in the air at like 4,000 meters and say below you is a set of tanks. Roll to the left and dive in a vertical dive, and when the tanks are lined up, release the bomb. And there's no way to really connect those actions to the voiceover, to where if you screw it up, the voiceover will say, "Oh, you messed up. Go back around and try again." Like it's Daniel's saying that there's no concrete action. It's just a demonstration on what to do. So that's why that's why the training videos are good, because you can just watch them over and over again to get an idea of what to do, and then you can practice it. But an interactive mission where concrete actions are connected to the interactive portion of the mission with the voiceovers, man, it's not so easy to do. But I don't know. Maybe there's a way. Our mission builder is quite powerful, but it would take quite a bit of work. So that's the problem.
All right. Well, I just wanted to bring it up, and thank you for your answer.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, I see another Custard in here. Is that the same Custard as before? Did you change your name, or is that a different Custard?
It's a different one.
So different guy.
Yes, Jason. Yeah.
Okay. And you're from?
I'm from England.
England. Okay, gotcha. Go ahead, bud.
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to ask. It's a quick question about Kuban. I'm just wondering if the H16 is going to have the gun turrets, or if it's not going to have the gun turrets. Cheers.
I don't think they are, but Daniel, can you confirm?
Need some kind of translation from English to English.
The guns, the defensive guns, the H16 had either a modification or there was a different model that had instead of the gun, the defensive gun station on the top and the bottom. There was a model of the H16 that had an actual turret, a ball turret.
Oh.
You follow me?
I understand you. I have saw a discussion between Luke and Vix about this, and actually I don't remember the result. If you will allow me, I will answer it a little bit later. I will look for this discussion now.
So, Custard, I think the issue was that we didn't know. We did some research. Luke obviously probably helped track some information down, and we weren't sure which was the model we should build. When I was in the office, my guess is the model that I saw being worked on had some dual machine guns as part of the defensive arrangement, but I don't remember seeing any what you would consider a turret. So my guess is we're not going to have the turret, but Daniel will have to take another look. Some of those details are done by the modelers and done by Vix with research from.
Oh, Jason, I have found it.
Oh, okay.
I have looked at discussion between Luke and Vix, and Vix have responded that only H20 have had this ball turret, not H60.
Okay, so the answer is no ball turrets for H16. But
yes,
we do have a change.
Only for H20,
Right.
Yes.
Right, but we do have a change. We have additional machine guns, right? The Zwilling. Don't they have a dual mount?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Heavy machine guns.
Right. Okay. Does that answer your question, Custard?
Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I think ball turrets would be cool, and it would be awesome to build them. But I think our research has indicated that they weren't all that common. So we probably went with the more standard traditional setup. These are the kind of small things that sometimes we can't add to the title because we don't have time or we don't have enough good reference material. But we'll have to. I'll have to look at it further before I comment any further. I just don't know the complete answer other than what Daniel said. That looks like we're not going to be doing them because they weren't on the H16. But I'm sure people will say, maybe not. Maybe there were some maybe there were some units that had it in the H16. But I have to look further at the issue. But thank you for the question, Custard.
Thank you, Jason. I think it's the R1. I think Thor down in the chat mentioned it, but thank you for your answer. Cheers.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Super. Thank you. Let's go next to Clunk. Go ahead, Clunk. Where are you from?
Cheers, guys. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Barely. Okay. Let's take another one. I'm in the middle of the dark Swedish forest. My connection is really low. So
okay.
Take the next question.
Well, your connection's good. It's just your voice is low.
Okay. First of all, a big thank you to the team for making this fantastic title and giving the IL2 nerds a great platform for continuing our weird community.
Yeah, no problem. But listen, it's really hard to hear you. I don't know if everybody else is having trouble, but maybe swallow the microphone or turn up the volume or something. But please ask your question and I'll.
Okay, quick question. Looking forward after what's happening back at Kuban, could you describe your plans, thoughts, and ideas about the next step? There's been a lot of discussion about Guadalcanal and Midway on the forums. So just a quick or a long thoughts about what is going to happen afterwards and why.
Okay.
Quick long thoughts, mate.
Quick long thoughts. So I think I heard you that you want us to give some comments about the next step, which is the Pacific. And there's a lot of discussion. Okay. And there's a lot of discussion about Guadalcanal, Okinawa, Midway, and the battles that we want to do. So the plan is pretty simple. Once we finish Kuban and we can squeeze in as much as possible into Kuban, assuming we get the go-ahead from 1C, we will move into the working on the Pacific. Now, the Pacific is tricky because we have to add some new technology. Our engineers have to build some ship technology, including landing on an aircraft carrier, making an aircraft carrier a floating, moving airbase to launch planes from. So it's going to take some work. My fear is that work is going to take a long time to complete. So we will have a big gap between the release of Kuban and the release of a Pacific product. Without the ships, there really isn't a proper Pacific product. This is why I want to build Midway, because Midway is primarily about the ships. The ships themselves are the islands, let's say, the big steel islands that will make up the battle space. Guadalcanal is a fantastic theater, but it's got a lot of land masses. It's got a lot of different airplanes. It also needs ships, maybe not carriers, but you need a lot of destroyers and transports and things like that. And we felt that want to build. I know some people, some users want us to start in the beginning of the war and march our way to the end of the war, just like the campaign, the war itself. You start at Pearl Harbor and you end up in Tokyo. Well, for us, we have to take in all kinds of other considerations. And what we've decided is Midway can be used as a proving ground for our Pacific technology and give us the momentum to build the Pacific War out in the future. Then if we go to Okinawa, Okinawa gives us a chance to build airplanes from the end of the war. So in a couple years' time, we can have a lot of slower, less maneuverable, less powerful airplanes that took place in Midway. And then we do Okinawa. We can have much cooler, faster, more deadly later warplanes. And we can do kamikaze attacks. Okinawa is a bigger land mass, which will allow us to use our land technology, which is always improving. So for us, we have to go, how can we make one or two products that will be compelling, that will be interesting, that will give us a chance to perfect our technology and give you guys a chance to buy an interesting product. We feel that the end of the war, Okinawa has been underserved in the market. Sure, you can play Okinawa scenarios with 1946, and it was interesting. But Microsoft never went there. Other Janes and other folks that made flight sims in the 90s never went there. So we think it's an interesting scenario that will showcase all of our technology and all of our hard work in an interesting title. Midway is important because from a gameplay perspective, it was pretty much an even battle. Even though the Americans won the battle, you had two large surface fleets with aircraft carriers. You had a very well-known set of airplanes. You had a landmass, the island of Midway, which can be then modeled in quite a lot of detail. And it was attacked by air by the Japanese with ground defenders and marine fighter planes defending it. So what the Battle of Midway is the classic carrier warfare. And I want our carrier warfare to be the best ever put into a game. And I think that with our realism and with our graphics and our new DirectX 11, and when we get around to doing the physics for aircraft carriers, I think that our Midway product will be quite compelling, even if it doesn't have the Guadalcanal feel where there's a big land base with lots of ships in the slot and all kinds of stuff happening. So I'm not against Guadalcanal at all. I know people have asked me many times to do it. But I think as far as the overall plan for our engine and for the products we want to sell, I think Okinawa adds a certain uniqueness that Guadalcanal doesn't necessarily have. But if making maps is one thing. We can make a map of Guadalcanal. Then we get into the weeds as to what airplanes to have there. Some planes from Midway can be used in Guadalcanal, but we'd have to make a lot of other planes fresh from scratch. We'd have to do early model P-39s. We'd have to do different P-40s. We'd have to do other planes, maybe B-17, other big ticket items that are going to take a long time to build. So we're always stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to what to build because we don't have unlimited budget and unlimited time. So right now the plan is Midway and Okinawa. Early turning point earlier in the war and the penultimate battle at the end of the war with kamikazes and more faster, more powerful aircraft at the end of the war. So I think that will be an interesting theater. So that's our plan moving forward. But right now we're so wrapped up in Kuban and all of these new features that we need to add for you that we're talking about the future, but until Daniel sits down with me and we go through every single feature and every single piece of content we want to add to the Pacific titles, we won't know more. So I read the forums, I see what people talk about, I see what their interest level is for different theaters and battles and scenarios. So I will always keep it in mind. But that's That's all I have to say about the Pacific at this point.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Thanks. We'll wait for carry operations.
I'm sorry, Clunk. Again, it's hard to hear you, bud. What was that?
Just a big thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem. All right. Daniel, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I don't know. You have told so much details that I have nothing to add.
Okay.
Only thing that I may add that my personal dream is after World War II is to create something about Korea War, but it's a little bit later.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you heard it here first. Daniel wants to go to Korea, so maybe in the future after Pacific or sometime down the line we can do Korea. Cool.
You're the best.
Let's go to the next question. We did Clunk. Bando, you had another question.
Yes, thank you. From Holland again. I got, three small questions. The first one is how to get rid of missions. You know, the missions that are standard in the game. I cannot delete them. If I delete them, they come back every time I start the game up. The second one is we get the G4, the 109 G4 in December, if I'm correct. Do you have a timeline for the other Kuban planes? And the third one is, I know you do not initially start with torpedoes in Kuban, but is there a plan to implement them? Thank you.
Okay, first, the missions you speak of are hard-coded. They're encrypted into the build that you download from our servers, so that's why you can't delete them. However, I have a plan, and I haven't even spoken to Daniel about this yet, but we'll put them in a folder, so they're just sitting in a folder, and you don't have to necessarily see the whole list every time you log in and look at the mission screen. Okay, and then the G4 is definitely coming this month, and it's in testing now. As far as the other planes go, pretty much assume there'll be a new plane about every month and a half for the next year. But yeah, Daniel, do you want to speak on which one comes after the G4?
Oh, Jason, I'm now sitting at Vic's computer, not at my personal computer. But
okay.
you have plan on your computer. You may open it and look to milestones.
Yeah, I gotta have to find to do that. But
producer have lost our development
no,
plan.
Exactly. Producer's got it in a file, and I gotta go look for it. You jerk. Problem is I have 10 different versions of the file he's talking about. Let's see here. Let me see if I can take a quick look. Give me 1 second.
Okay, can I, in the meantime, address Han about the torpedoes? I know you got torpedoes from the boats in Kuban, but are you planning for torpedoes from planes towards the boats?
I might to answer. It will be great, but creating torpedo variants of our bombers, like Boston or Henkel, it's a great piece of job. And actually, we have no time in our timeline for this in Kuban. But if everything will go fine, and if community will show that Kuban is cool and that they want evolution of planes of Kuban, when it is possible a little bit later.
Okay, because for the battle in the Pacific, you need to have torpedo planes. Am I correct?
Of course, Pacific for sure. Pacific for sure, but we have to pay for that development. It's not easy.
Okay, thanks.
So Daniel, which is the late? See, my problem is, Daniel, I have so many versions of the schedule that I forget which one's the most recent.
Let me 1 minute to find it here.
For some reason, I can pull up version number 3, but not.
No, it's not last.
Yeah, we're on.
Just answer some questions, Jason. I will be back in 2 minutes.
Okay, no problem. All right, so because I'm unorganized. Let me go back to the TeamSpeak here.
Okay, on
So Armando, so torpedoes, the G4, the airplane, and the missions. I think I answered your questions. Anything else?
No. If you answer this in a DD, that's all right with me. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Alrighty. Bando, next question is... okay, Genius, you have a question.
Yeah. Hello, I'm
hello.
From France.
Hi. Okay.
Sorry for my terrific accent.
Okay.
I have 4 questions.
4 questions?
Yes.
Okay, let's try to keep the multi-part questions to a minimum, but go ahead, because I want to give as many people a chance to ask a question as possible. But go ahead.
All of the features announced for Battle of Kuban will be present at the release, or will be a report of some of them?
Okay, so
it is my first question.
Okay, Kuban features. Okay, next.
Sorry. Do you consider the possibility of publishing an SDK for the creator of new map or aircraft?
Okay, SDK about aircrafts and maps. Okay, go ahead. Next one.
Can you tell us more about the possible feature of the new gameplay Marshall?
Okay. Marshall features. Okay.
Consider you releasing some map of rough Rise of Light.
Okay. So you're saying, are we going to do a new Rise of Flight map?
No, using
using the right. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll answer these quickly. I think you asked me the Kuban features. Are we going to have to wait till the final release of Kuban to get some of these, or okay, will they be present at the release? Will be okay. Thank you for writing it in the text.
Jason, I'm back, and I may answer about timelines.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Daniel. Genius, then I'll get to your questions. Go ahead, Daniel.
Okay. Also, Jason, please tell me how far can I open our plans? Till spring, or till summer, or till the release?
Just go through the whole thing again, everybody. This is our plan. It doesn't mean we'll hit all of these dates, but this is our overall plan. So go ahead, just go through the whole thing.
Oh fuck! It's,
no, just go to airplane. Daniel,
I feel like a Snowden.
No, just give a general idea of when each plane will be released. All right.
Okay, let me be a Snowden a bit. So January. In January, we plan to in the end of January we plan to release BF 11.0 G2. In end of February, Henkel 11.1 H16. In end of March, Focke-Wulf A5 together with flight model fixes of A3. In end of May, IL2 model of 9043 with 50 caliber machine gun at rear. In June, we plan to release Spitfire. In July, we plan to release Kuban map. Without career, but it will be for quick mission and multiplayer. After Kuban map, there will be a gap in releases for August and September, and in October we plan to release Yak 7B and start open beta of Kuban career. In November, we plan to release Boston Bomber and Air Cobra. Also there will be a new free historical campaign for Kuban, and Henschel 129, and in December it's the final release of Kuban.
Okay, so Daniel just went through the whole list. Basically, a lot of things will come towards the end of the development cycle. Some things take a long time to build. For instance, the Boston bomber, the A-20. We've already have people working on the model, but it takes a long time to build a fresh plane from scratch that we've never built before. It takes many, many dozens of weeks of manpower to build such a model accurately and then learn all its systems and animate everything and make it flyable. So the plan that Daniel has just mentioned touched on all the big stuff, the airplanes and the career. Also, during that time period over the next 12 months, there's going to be a lot of smaller additions to the game that are part of the schedule that he's talking about that I seem to have lost the most recent one. All that information is in that development schedule. So the martial mode and co-op and things that we're working on are all going to be released in the winter and the spring and the summer. So again, the final goal is next December. We usually end up going over the deadline a little bit, but in that period, we always try to squeeze in as many things as possible. So we'll see how far we can get. But so that's what Daniel just described as the general plan for the airplane releases, and the career really won't be ready for rollout until the latter part of next year. But we knew that. That's how long it took with the Rise of Flight career, and that's how long it's going to take for this career. For those that don't like the existing campaign, you're just going to have to be patient. It takes time to develop all of that, and it takes time to build these airplanes from scratch. Planes like the G4 and the IL-2 and the Focke-Wulf, they're a little bit easier to build because we already have an existing model, cockpit, textures, flight model that we can look at to more quickly build the next variant. But you'll notice that this time around, the Spitfire is a fresh build. The A-20 is a big fresh build. The HS-129 is a big fresh build. So we don't always just build variants. We also build completely new airplanes. But it's those new airplanes that really, really take time, and they really drive up costs to get stuff built. But we try to mix both variants of existing planes to fill out the plane set and new aircraft that are new and interesting for all users. Also, the Yak-7B, Daniel, is that a fresh build, or is that kind of a modification of the Yak-1? I wouldn't know the exact amount of work needed.
Oh, it's not 100% new, but mostly it's new plane because it was created from two-seater training plane, and actually it's very, very different from Yak-1.
Right, got it. So as you can see, we have at least 3 3/4 airplanes that are completely fresh. So including the A-20, which is a 2-engine bomber attack plane, which takes time. So so thank you, Daniel, for that information. That's helpful. Let me go back to Genius's questions real quick. So that kind of answered your question, your first question. Features will be rolled out over the next 12 months, and you'll see things like the new campaign mode, you'll see co-op mode, you'll see SDKs for vehicles and other objects, and you'll see other features and improvements added to the game over the next 12 months. So the rollout process is it's an ongoing thing. We don't save everything for the end, but typically don't try to purposely save anything. It's just a matter of how fast can we get this done and how fast can we get it out the door. But we of course prioritize what we build based on the needed resources and time and money that it takes to build stuff. About SDK for aircraft and maps. There will not be an official SDK for aircraft. Because it's so difficult to build our systems and flight models, we're gonna continue to build our airplanes. That's just the way it's been for us, and will probably remain forever. That's a whole nother discussion for another day. As far as maps, we're not going to have an SDK for maps, but if there is some kind of talented team or person who can demonstrate to us that they know what they're doing, that they're talented, and have the ability to maybe make a map, we may work with you. We've already done that with some other people, but very rarely does somebody come along that we can work with without really much supervision. Because if our map team is working with third-party people, they're not building maps for the game. So it's a tricky balance. And right now we had one person or small team working on a map for Odessa, while our main map team works on map for the Kuban, the actual Kuban map. So just building those two maps keeps everybody involved in our map making completely busy. And the Odessa map, we don't know how, when, or if it'll ever be finished, but the person that has taken on the task seems to have the skill set to do it, so we're letting that person try. But we're obviously not talking a lot about it because we don't know if it'll ever be finished. But the Kuban map is being built by our official map maker and team, and that will be produced based on the schedule that Daniel just talked about. So the Marshal mode, the Marshal features, that is, I could talk like for an hour on that, but I'm not going to. Basically, the Marshal features will have it'll be a special screen that the Marshal can view the battle or information from the battle. Not all information, but information that is provided at a certain interval based upon spotters, recon planes, friendly forces in combat, airbase forces that can report to the Air Marshal what's happening and build a picture of what the battlefield looks like. And then the Air Marshal can direct friendly forces to intercept or to fight the enemy. So we expect it to be interesting. We expect there to be bugs. We expect there to be things you like, things you don't like. So it's doubtful that we'll get it right away. Maybe there'll probably be some growing pains with this feature because we've never built anything like this before. But we're excited to build it, and we had a really good discussion on my last visit about the features that we'll include. The Marshal will be able to add markers to your in-flight map to help direct teammates to targets or to waypoints. But there'll be limitations on what a friendly unit can see, what an observation post or a spotter can see in regards to distances and information that flows back to the Marshal. So it's not going to be like an all-seeing drone up in the sky looking at all of the whole entire battle and giving you every bit of information like a strategy game. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to give you a tool. An optional tool, by the way, that'll be a server-side option. If you choose to have a Marshal, then the Marshal can have some information from the battlefield help direct your side in winning the battle. And if you have a good Marshal, you might win the battle. If you have a bad Marshal or no Marshal, you might lose the battle. Because every battlefield in World War II had a commander, they had a headquarters, they had maps, they had you know, a big, maybe like a map table where they put units on the table and when reports came back of where this unit was, you moved a marker over to this area on the map, and you built a picture of the battle. And that goes for air battles as well. Every air battle took place in some kind of battle space that somebody was watching what was happening, or at least monitoring the radio and reporting to others what was happening. Now, of course, then we can get into all kinds of arguments about not all Russian units had radios in their airplanes and those kinds of things. But again, this is a video game, not real life, but we're trying to give you a new tool to manage an online battle, which we think will increase the entertainment value of the product and make online battles more fun. Because I know personally, when I log on to a server sometimes, even if there's a lot of people on the server, I take off by myself, I go looking for trouble by myself, there's no real coordination, even if I'm on TeamSpeak with people, and I know that a lot of you want to have that more social interaction and teamwork on a multiplayer server. And we think that the martial mode will be a tool to help foster that cooperation and have the two sides fight as an army together or against each other, as opposed to individuals just going to look to shoot down other airplanes. That's still going to happen, but if you can have a tool to help organize each side better, why not give that to the players and let them work out how it develops? So that's the martial mode in a nutshell. You'll be able to put some markers on the pilot's mini map and some other features that we're not really ready to discuss in any kind of detail. But again, it's a tool for somebody to get a picture of the battlefield and to help manage your friendly forces in the battle. We think it will just make online battles more interesting and have more strategy and tactics and teamwork that currently is missing from multiplayer. About adding the Rise of Flight map to BOSS, that's not going to happen. The map is quite dated, and we don't really see much use for it in the current Sturmovik universe that we're building. With the advent of DirectX 11, we have the possibility of increasing the fidelity of our maps, have more detail. We're interested in the possibility of possibly increasing the detail of our maps. So the Rise of Flight map right now is just going to stay in Rise of Flight, but we may improve our maps that exist with the current Sturmovik in the future. So stay tuned to get to do that. So I hope, Genius, that answers your question. Questions, I should say.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Genius, let's see. Okay, Exeron asked a question in the chat, which I asked you guys not to do, but I'll answer it anyways. His question is, how many seasons of Pacific Theater will be released? And when do you plan the return? Okay. Well, as far as the Pacific goes, there's really only one season primarily, and that's spring or summertime because it's tropical. So I don't expect a lot of seasonal changes in the Pacific.
Also, there is any difference between summer and winter in tropics?
Primarily, it's rainfall that makes the difference. Like, there's a monsoon season, and there's a rainy season, all that kind of stuff. So, as far as I know, that's really the main difference. Really, no snow.
From Russia, it's we think that in tropics there is always green palms and no any changes in seasons.
Not much. There's not much variation. This is true. About when we come back to the Eastern Front, if we can work on this for another 10 years, we'll be able to come back to it. If we can only do it another few years, we may never get back to it. That just begs the question, how many copies can we sell? how much money can we make, and how much longer can we keep going. We've been on the edge of extinction for 7.5 years ever since I got involved with the team. Our products have never been, although they've been profitable, they've never been, and I've said this before, they've never been wildly popular. Wildly profitable. We're not Star Citizen. We don't have users giving us $60 million to produce flight sims forever. So it all depends on how successful our products are and how much longer we can keep doing this. We hope to keep doing it a lot longer. We love what we do, and we think that we're turning a corner with this particular series. And since we've updated the technology and we're adding more content, we think that and we're changing the feature set, over time, our Sturmovik series will get even more popular. But it's hard. It's hard to get flight simmers to buy. It's not. If we can come back to the Eastern Front at a later date, maybe do Kursk or Leningrad or some other scenario, I'm certainly open to it. But we're going to go to the Pacific next after Kuban, have some fun there, and then we'll see where we want to go. So thank you, Zaxaran. Let's go to Rapidus. Again, you asked questions in the chat. I'll try to answer them. Talk about custom markers, range activation from SDS file, D server, custom balancer, question about MP. Please be waiting for new logging system for server, locations, players, and logs every 30 seconds. Daniel, do you see his questions in the chat? Do you want to comment on anything? I don't really know how to answer these because they're not really in the form of a good question.
He attacking me by these questions every day in Skype.
Oh, okay.
But also glad to see Dead Rapidus here because he is a cool guy. He creating cool multiplayer projects for us.
Okay.
And about questions and answers. About custom balancer, I think that we will do this in next update because it's not very hard. We just need to allow to change balancer config.
Okay.
About logging players' positions, that's not very hard to do. But
opens up a box of other.
I think that it will be possible in summer, in next year's summer, yes. About custom markers, range activation, for me it's not clear what Rapidus is talking about actually. I'm sorry.
Okay. When you say custom balancer, what do we mean by that? We mean automatically balancing the teams?
For now, we have automatic balancer on ranked servers, which is not used by server hosters now, but it allows to make teams balance it by quantity of planes which are spawned in the air simultaneously. So if you have 5 Messerschmitts in the air now, so you will be not able to spawn 15 Lauchkins against them.
Mm-hmm.
So some hosters are claiming that they want to customize with balancer settings, and I think that we will allow this in next update.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you for that clarification. One sec here, guys. Okay, Hiromachi, what do we got for us? Go ahead with your question.
I heard you mentioned the directive.
Wait, Hiromachi, where are you from first?
I'm from Poland.
Okay, that's
yeah,
right.
that's far east.
Yes, we know where Poland is. Okay, go ahead.
I heard you mentioned DirectX 12, and you know that it's on an advent. And considering you are working currently on the DirectX 11, I was thinking of asking why instead of DirectX 12, I assume in future that would also be something to change too, you wouldn't take a different way to Vulkan API that is currently quite popular, especially among the enthusiast groups.
DirectX 12 is?
It's an API
Oh, Vulkan.
like...
Vulkan. You said, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You said Vulkan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I talked about this with Sneaksy when we were at the Steam Days quite a bit. They had a workshop on Vulkan. Basically, DirectX 12 is Windows 10 only, so that proves a problem because we really can only support one DirectX at a time. And if we do DirectX 12, people with Windows 7 or can't use DirectX 12.
I know.
So hold on. So we're doing DirectX 11 for now. There are also some differences between DirectX 11, DirectX 12, and Vulkan. DirectX 11 has a lot of stuff in it that makes adoption of it quite easy. There's again, I'm not a programmer, so I screw this up every time I try to explain it. But essentially, DirectX 11 was an easier port from DirectX 9 because of how the shaders work and things of that nature. However, with DirectX 12, there's a lot more custom work that has to be done with shaders and building support. This is according to my team, also and to our lead programmer. Also, Vulkan is the same way. There seems to be a lot of flexibility in Vulkan, but it also means we have to do a lot of work. And right now, we don't have a lot of free time to go and adopt support for Vulkan or DirectX 12 and do all of this additional work. Right now, we're lucky that we could find the time to get from DX9 to DX11. And we're seeing some really good performance gains with DirectX 11.
Yeah, that I know.
Okay, so the question is, we're not against Vulkan, we're not against DirectX 12. I hope that once we get past DirectX 11, we can look at DirectX 12 or build support for Vulkan. But those are questions that are further down the line once we get through our current development cycle, and I can talk to our lead programmer and get a sense of what's possible and if there really are any real advantages to supporting Vulkan or supporting DirectX 12. But I know that there's a difference in how they operate. That's the only thing I really know because I'm not a programmer. But I will certainly keep my eye open to this possibility. I just don't have an answer as to when that could happen.
All right. It's just because you meant all those problems with DirectX 12, and that was the thing I wanted to point somehow with the Vulkan, that they are non-existent, because Vulkan is technically working not only on the Windows 10, but it's also working on older iterations. It's most importantly working also on a Linux and Mac as operating systems, and it goes all, even it would probably even give the possibility to spread the game to consoles. Of course, that would be an interest. So that was exactly the thing I wanted to point out, that Vulkan simply gives better flexibility and possibility to go backwards, unlike the DirectX 12.
Yeah, it's an agnostic system that's flexible. But my lead programmer doesn't have any experience with it. We're trying to make our game as good as possible in a short amount of time as possible. So DirectX 11 was the next logical step. When we're done with that, I'll probably have him take a look at Vulkan and see what we can do. Even
only problem that Vulkan is evolution of OpenGL.
Right.
And we have DirectX engine.
Right.
And it will be damn hard and damn expensive and damn long work to move to OpenGL. I think that maybe for next project like Il2 free, maybe Vulkan is possible, but not for current one.
Well, that's a good answer. So Daniel would know best about how it impacts the team. I'm always looking at it from a larger
I have
window.
just opened Wikipedia about Vulkan.
Okay. So yeah, so we'll see. Not against improving the engine at all, Hiramachi. I just I got to work with what I can, and right now DX11 is it. And I hope that people will like DX11 implementation, and we can improve our graphics. We can improve certain aspects of our visual presentation that people don't like. I hope to solve some problems with draw distances and other things that people like to bitch about. So, you know, let's start with DirectX 11 and see how that goes, and then we can look at other possibilities. If I open the flight sim up to Linux or Mac or in console's a whole nother animal. You know, will it really help our bottom line that much? Are we missing a large amount of sales by not supporting Vulkan? That's an open question for business development side of the operation. So anyways, I hope that answered your question. Sorry if it's not what you wanted to hear.
No, it's okay. It's more or less what I wanted, just to make a note.
Okay.
It's more than I actually asked, so thank you very much.
All right, no problem. Okay. Ropax, are you there? You poked me and you want to ask a question.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, where are you from?
I'm from Czech Republic.
Okay, nice to meet you. Your question is about the G6?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you want to know if we're going to build it?
Yes.
Okay. Long story short, we'd like to build it, but we don't know if we can fit it into our existing plans. We had to make some hard choices to build in a certain time period that 1C has given us. So I don't know if we can get, if we build the G6, we have to build the LA5F for FN. So there's two planes right there that we'd like to build, because we know that if we go to the Pacific for a couple years, users in the Eastern Front are going to complain that we didn't give them the LA5FN or the G6, and they really want it because those planes appeared at the end of 1943, which Kuban technically covers. So those are two planes we'd like to build, and if there's any way I can build them, I will get the team to build them. But maybe as collector planes, I don't know. But maybe we can find a way to build them, but I cannot make any promises at this point.
Mm-hmm. And will there be an 1.42 8AA engine for G4?
Daniel, what did we decide on that, or is that accurate? Remember?
I first of all, I want to ask sorry for my English, but in this case I have not understood the question. Please, Jason, translate from English to English me.
Or about the G6? Or about
what
the
about
A2A, ATA?
On G6?
On G6, he wants to know if we're going to build it. And I told him maybe, but I have no idea if we can. We'd like to, but I don't know if we'll be able to. Then,
so, and then the question is for me?
The question is, he asked about, on the G4, is the 109 G4 going to have the 1.42 ATA engine?
Yes, it will be.
There you go. Okay.
Yes.
There's your answer. All right, you can shoot down all the Russian planes with your superior German machine. All right.
But this engine arrived at the same time that the G6 arrived to the Eastern Front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still have to build. I still have to build the G6. Defis, you're echoing. Mute. There we go, Defis. Thank you. We still have to build a G6. It's still a separate plane. There's other changes that have to be done. But at least it opens up the possibility to a G6, but I can't give you a definite yes or no.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's go to next question. Custer, do you have another question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I bet I can guess the answer to this one, but
Okay.
you mentioned with Air Marshal and how you want to see a lot more coordination and communication in multiplayer. So I take it there's no chance of an inbuilt VoIP function, is there?
I wouldn't say there's no chance, but the chance of it happening with Kuban is minimal.
Yeah.
It's not in the plan, but we all have TeamSpeak, so you can certainly coordinate on TeamSpeak. Now, as far as in-game voice commands, I chatted with our lead programmer about this. We're going to, over time, investigate what's possible, but I have no idea how much time this would take to implement. I have no idea what kind of effect it would have on bandwidth. We already have issues with our netcode that we have to fix, so I don't want to make it worse. I don't know how that would be implemented exactly, but it's something I'm interested in. It's something I've told our lead programmer I'm interested in, and we'll do a preliminary investigation at some point, but I don't have any kind of concrete answer for you other than it's not in the current plan for Kuban, but maybe further down the line. Daniel, did you want to add anything to this? Maybe you guys have talked about it some more. In-game voice?
About the 6? In-game voice.
Yeah.
Oh, it will be cool. I want to have it in game too, because it's a question of immersion of the game, because when you got to launch some additional tools instead in addition to the game, like TeamSpeak or Roger Wilk, I don't know, when it's ruining my immersion that I have came to world of a game and I got to use some kind of additional stuff. But it's not so easy. The guys who created TeamSpeak have spent many time to create it so cool as it is now. I remember times of first versions of TeamSpeak, and this was a piece of crap. Now it's cool because they have spent many time to debug it, to improve it, and so on. Maybe one day we will do this too.
The problem too with in-voice chat is, or in-game chat is, there's a cost involved. I don't know whether we can find a solution that's free, or it's something we have to purchase, or it's something we have to pay a royalty for. I have no idea. So that's another consideration when we look at the in-game voice options that exist. So we have to investigate all areas, not just the technical side of things.
Cheers, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. Custer, okay, so next, Jim in Canada, you had a question. Jim TM.
Hi, yes, I'm just wondering if there's any way we're going to be able to get elevation, ground elevation information in the Kuban map for level bombing?
Daniel, any idea?
Once again, please.
I'm just wondering if we're going to be able to get the ground elevation information in the Kuban map to use for level bombing.
Jason, please comment.
Well, I don't understand the question exactly either, so I'm trying to figure it out, Jim.
Значит, вопрос в том, что сможет ли мы узнать сейчас, сможет ли игрок узнать высоту точки поверхности Земли, чтобы это использовать для точного бомбометания.
Okay, but we already have data about target altitude in bombing missions.
How so? Can you explain it to Jim?
Yes, please.
In briefing, in mission briefing, you should have information about target elevation.
Well, Jim, okay, so there's confusion here. So Han, Daniel, Jim is a mission builder. He's written a very large manual about how to use the mission editor. So I'm assuming that his question revolves around information that can be used in the mission editor. Am I correct in assuming that, Jim?
Actually, I was thinking more in terms of just the pilot,
okay.
You know, taking off from a certain airfield at a certain elevation and flying over the target and knowing what elevation they are over ground level, the local ground level. And I just thought with the Kuban map being a lot more hilly, a lot more variation in elevation than the current maps.
Okay. Well, that would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, but that would be something you'd have to glean from the mission editor and then put into the briefing, correct? We don't have a above ground level altimeter, do we?
We can set the altimeter to the local field level.
Right.
But
you're talking about the targets.
Yeah.
Well, how did real bombardiers and pilots figure that out in their missions? Was it in the briefing, or was it something they could calculate? I don't know.
So let me explain how it works now. For now, you have information about ground level at target area in your briefing, and in normal difficulty settings you have altimeter in your speed bar, which shows real altitude, real geometric altitude.
Above sea level?
No, above terrain.
Oh, above terrain, okay.
In normal mode you have speed bar with altitude above terrain.
Right.
So I don't understand what is the confusion. Please, more comments.
Okay, I think with the feature that you mentioned in normal, I didn't realize that was the altitude above the ground. I was going on the two different altimeter settings you can do, the one for standard atmosphere and the one for the zeroing out to the local field level.
Right, so this in cockpit, in cockpit gauge.
Yeah. So and you're saying
I'm saying that you have altitude above terrain in speed bar in normal difficulty settings.
Okay, so if you're playing the expert settings, then you're kind of out of luck on that feature.
So if you fly in expert, then if your airplane is not equipped by radio altimeter, then you have no way to know real altitude above the ground, and this will be presented in the game in expert mode. But if you are a bomber, you need to know target elevation above sea level to make correct bombing, right?
Yes.
And this is noted in mission briefing by text, and this is already done in our campaign, and this will be by the same way in new career.
Okay, so it's up to the mission builder to provide that feature.
Of course, so, yes, right.
Yeah. I'll add that to the manual, actually. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, so that was Jim. You're in Canada, right?
Yep, near Toronto.
Toronto, gotcha. We appreciate all of your work and appreciate you spending the time to educate others in how the mission builder works. And I know you sent me some messages, and I haven't always been able to respond right away, but I do appreciate all the work, Jim.
Oh, thanks, Jason.
Let's see here. Okay, Kai Lei, you have another question. Said that in the chat. The text. No? Did he leave? Kai, you're there. You have a question?
I sure do. It helps if you unmute yourself.
There you go. Go ahead.
All right. My question has to do with unlocks. Are we still unlocks, or should we call them options? I'm not really sure what you should refer to them. However we're currently calling them. There are, for instance, certain unlocks that, like for instance on the 109, if you put bombs on it, typically the two outer cannons would be deleted automatically. So for instance, some unlocks would prohibit installation of other ones. Which is not currently like something that is in game. You throw combinations that would not be possible under normal circumstances on your aircraft. The other question I have is an idea that currently we don't have certain planes in game, and what I was wondering is if it might be possible to add in unlocks that would, for instance, change the way an aircraft would work. For instance, instead of having X engine on a plane, you would have Y engine on a plane, which would be, say, like for like an earlier series of aircraft. It might not be correct completely visually. There might be certain minor changes visually, but it would make it so that you would have a more period accurate aircraft for certain scenarios that we could have. So that was just some of the thoughts I was having.
All right, well, first let me address the unlocks. Well, we don't call them unlocks anymore because we've done away with the system that unlocked items during the campaign or as you played the game. Now we're calling them mods or aircraft mods, similar to what we had with Rise of Flight. You can have different weapons, different loadouts, different windscreens, different this, different that. So we're calling them mods. As far as mixing and matching mods, if adding a certain bomb load automatically deletes the cannons on the wings, I would imagine that that's because it would make the airplane too heavy, or maybe they just were never carried that way. Daniel could answer that probably better than me, but we typically try to have realistic loadouts and realistic options as far as mods on the aircraft. As far as adding additional mods like different engines and other things to try to make more variation in the aircraft that are flown in the game, we try to stay away from anything that wasn't particularly historical. We bend the rules sometimes if the modification is interesting or that we know was used in the battle, but it's always a judgment call on some things. But as far as doing additional engines, we'd have to spend, if we had every variation of every engine or system that was made for these airplanes, we don't have the time to build them all. Our engineering team is already overworked and underpaid, so getting them to build all these different variations of engines, or what if we put different gasoline in the engine, these kinds of things might have existed in real life, but it's just hard to build it all. So I don't see those kind of options being available to us in the future, assuming that's what you mean. I got a little lost in your question, but...
Well, mainly I was thinking, for instance, just throw out an example, like a Lag 3 Series 11, would have a different engine than, for instance, a Lag 3 Series 6, 33, or Lag 3, like Series 66, I think actually has leading edge slats like an LA5 does. Things like that, where it might not be possible to model that visually, but you might be able to just make a selection where you can change something by adding, a mod on your plane.
Oh, yeah,
I know. I can understand what you're saying.
Listen, if the community was more forgiving, maybe those kinds of things would be possible. But right now, everything we do is scrutinized to such a degree that if we even move in a direction of giving you something but not matching that visually, will just cause a bunch of crap that we don't want to deal with. So, and plus with the resources that we have to focus on, we try to find the definitive model that should be in the battle, and we try to build that as accurately as possible. And then if there are modifications that we can add to that airplane that were historical or believable or realistic, then we try to give you those modifications.
All right.
But that's the best I can do at the moment. This other stuff you're talking about maybe would be interesting and fun, but we have to do it right or we just get hammered. And I'm tired of getting beat up. So
okay. Well, I understand that, that and you know, the 190, for instance, the 4 wing cannons and bombs. If you put bombs on a plane on that, what they are. Oh, actually, another question: will you possibly be considered changing the names of the mods to what they actually were in real life? For instance, German planes specifically, they have, like, for instance, R or U specifically for certain mods. You know, for that is like a change.
If there's some name we're using for a modification that's inaccurate, or if somebody could give me a list of what we currently named them and give me a list of what they should be named for historical sake, I'd be interested in seeing that list. I don't think it's difficult for us to change the names of things. So I'm not totally against that idea if that's an issue. This is the first I'm hearing of people having an issue with how we name stuff, but I don't have a huge problem with it as long as we can still understand what it is you're adding to your aircraft. So I'm interested in that idea, but I couldn't really tell you how that would affect us. Daniel, do you have anything to add on that issue? Are we naming things in a way that are not unrealistic?
If you think that something name it is wrong, then just connect with me in private messages on forum, and we may to correct everything. It's not very hard to do. About modifications, plane modifications, not about weapons, but about engines. It's not so easy, because creating additional bombs for airplane, it's not very hard. You just need to make additional variant of bomb holder and just attach this bomb correctly and put a name for this modification, and all is ready now. But when your modification is in our engine, when you need to investigate about how this engine have worked, to find the airplane performance data when it is equipped by this engine, you need to readjust flight model when this engine is used, because when you have installed just another engine, your flight characteristics are changing, but also they should be verified and corrected if something goes wrong. So what I want to say, installing new engine on the plane is very hard work. It's maybe a half of work of new airplane when we talk about flight model. So it's if you will make planes more expensive in this case, then maybe yes. But I don't think that we want to do this.
Who wants to buy $100 aircraft?
Well, mainly I was just curious, for instance, like when we play Tactical Air War, that you have some aircraft that don't really fit in a Moscow timeline, but then doing stuff like that. But if it sounds like it's much more difficult than what I would have thought, and that's fine. But thank you for your answer.
All right, thanks, Kai. Let's go.
Jason,
I
left for 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Klaus, man, you have a question about collector aircraft and engine modeling.
Yeah, just used a different account right now, but it's me. Yes, I wanted to ask, first of all, about collector aircraft. If you will produce more standalones like the Yak-1B and the J-52. For me, that smokes mostly about, let's say, an IL-4 and maybe even a PO2.
Would love all those airplanes, but we don't have a large team. I can't build 10 aircraft at once, and we have to pick and choose. And collector aircraft, we're able to, as you can see, we announced both the Yak-1B and the Tante Ju back in the summertime. And here we are coming up in December, and we're just now getting around to releasing the Ju-52. So these things take time to build, and a big plane like the IL-4 or other bombers takes a lot of time. So whenever possible in the schedule, I will try to make collector planes. Like I brought up the G6 and the LA-5FN as possible candidates for collector planes, but we could go on all day. IL-4, the Tu-2, the IAR 8081, and other significant aircraft of the time frame, the Hurricane, you name it, that I could make and release as collector planes would be great. But we have to do triage. We have to figure out what's possible to build, what we want to build, come up with a plan, and see if there's any extra time or budget to make more collector planes. And the answer is, I don't know. I don't know what other collector planes we can squeeze in the future. Like I said before, if everybody who bought IL-2 1946 would come and buy our Sturmovik, we'd have enough money to hire more people so we can make more content and hire more engineers to make more flight models. It's just, I don't have the resources. So I'm doing my best to improve the product as fast as possible. But until a lot of those people who have ignored our product or decided they don't like our product or listened to all the bullshit that was spread about our product 2 years ago or 3 years ago, if they would come back and buy the product and make us a few $1,000,000 where I can hire 5 more modelers and 3 more engineers and more people, then I can make more airplanes. But until that happens, I got to make tough decisions about what we can build. So I would like to make more collector planes. It's all a question of, can we find a way to make them with the current schedules and resources that we have. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and the second question about engine modeling I had was mainly about those very strict engine timers, and well, sometimes even I would say unrealistic, and I think others would also say limitations for P40, for example.
Yeah. Let me address that. Han, are you back yet? I don't want to answer this question without Daniel being present, because we've talked about this on my last visit at length, and I don't want to give my answer until he can hear it. Okay. So about engine limits, there's 3 options. Okay. One option is to leave it as it is now and to explain to you guys exactly how it works, so you have an idea of what to expect with it and manage your flying accordingly. It's not as rigid as some of you think it is, but it's also not as random as some of you want it to be. The second option is to make it to continue to tweak the existing system and try to add more randomness to failures and to change the dynamic that currently exists. And the third option is to give servers or players in single player the option to simply turn off engine limits and let the market decide what they want. So at this point in time, I'm leaning towards giving the player or the server operator the option of turning off the engine limits. And we can do that. It takes a little bit of work, but we could make that an option. Now, the argument against that is it will divide the community. There'll be tons of arguments about which server has engine limits, which server doesn't. The Germans will dominate because their engines or their planes are superior. Then the Russian players will get pissed off that they're always getting beat. So there's always a risk of, when we give people more options, that there's a risk of more people being disappointed. Now, the reason I'm even open to this idea is because we don't know the right answer. We don't know exactly how aircraft in World War II could be flown beyond the engine limits that are listed in the operator manual, okay? We don't know any mechanics from that era who are still alive that can tell us that you could fly the P-40 at maximum throttle for an hour in combat and still make it back to base in one piece. But then you have to do an engine swap because you burnt the heads, or the spark plugs are fouled, or whatever happens, or the oil got burnt up. We don't know. There's so many variables. It's just impossible to know exactly how over limit the engine, how it affects the engine itself. And every engine's different. I mean, an Allison built in America is going to be different from a BMW built in Germany, and it's just impossible to know. So what we've currently done is we've built in a system to where if you over limit the engine for beyond what the owner or the user or the operator's manual suggests, we add in the random possibility that your engine will fail in some kind of time frame. Okay, now each plane I think is different. With regards to the P-40, there seems to be the perception in the community that the P-40 will fail exactly 2 minutes after you over limit the engine or whatever. So I will tell you that that's not exactly true.
Yes, I've tested that myself actually. It's almost 10 minutes. I'm sorry that I'm interdicting here, but is there maybe a way to change the way the failures are modeled? I don't know what happens. It seems to be that one of the ceilings or something is failing, and it's just a dramatic, catastrophic failure. Whereas I think most likely maybe loss in compression or something.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me stop.
Or detonation.
Okay, but let me stop you there. Think it's most likely. There's a million different opinions on this. So anything we do is a guess. And anytime we guess, there's going to be 100 people that agree and 100 people that disagree. So we end up in an endless fucking argument on our forum and in public about what the right thing to do is. So this is why it's impossible for us to get it right. So again, there's one option. Leave it alone. Option two, like you're suggesting, tweak, and work on this until we can get most people to agree our system is cool. Or three, have a choice, either engine limits off or engine limits on. So
let me make some addition.
Okay, so these are the kind of choices we're facing. So let Daniel explain more, but it's a frustrating topic because I want it to be good and I want people to be happy. But the more I investigate this issue and the more I talk to the team and the more I talk to the public, it's clear that nobody knows the exact answer. So go ahead, Daniel.
Okay, I'll ask Snakesy to translate. I will speak in Russian because it's hard for me to speak some specific issues.
Go ahead.
Андрей, слышишь меня, да?
Wake up, Andre. Okay, while you do that, I'm gonna use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Итак, значит, во-первых, хотел бы в первую очередь объяснить, почему мы вообще решили, что эти ограничения вводить реалистично.
First of all, I would like to tell you why we decided that we need this restriction in the first place.
Если рассматривать реальный бой Второй мировой войны, по крайней мере на Восточном фронте,
if we take a look at regular firefight on Eastern Front, I mean firefight between fighters in the air,
то тогда ситуация, когда немецкие самолеты, в частности, постоянно летают на максимальном режиме работы, до максимально возможном режиме работы двигателей, не будет соответствовать действительности, исходя из того, что мы видим в воспоминаниях летчиков.
So if we take into account the pilot's memoirs, we can certainly say that situation where German pilots fly at maximum power, this is incorrect, would be incorrect, or it will be a very, very rare occasion.
Точно так же мы не можем сказать, что будет правильным с исторической точки зрения, если все самолеты Ла-5 от взлета и до посадки будут летать на форсированном режиме работы двигателя.
This is the same like if we would say that all LA-5 planes would fly always at maximum possible power from start to landing. This is not the case.
Таким образом, просто из того, что мы видим из воспоминаний реальных летчиков о реальных боях, можно видеть, что реальные летчики относились к этим ограничениям со всей серьезностью.
Therefore, from pilots' memoirs, we can tell that real pilots who flew these airplanes, they considered these restrictions very seriously.
И если мы уберем эти ограничения и дадим возможность игрокам в нашей игре от взлета и до посадки летать на максимальном форсированном, переведи на форсированном режиме работы двигателя, то это не будет иметь отношения к реальной картине боя, которая была во время Второй мировой войны.
So if we remove the restrictions or let, for example, someone from several hosters to decide what the restrictions will be, this will not be historical at all.
Таким образом, какие-то ограничения мы обязаны сделать.
Therefore, we must impose some kind of restrictions on engine power.
Но, естественно, остается открытым вопрос, как эти ограничения реально работают.
But the question remains how these restrictions should really function, how they should really work.
То есть я имею в виду, вопрос о том, что произойдет с двигателем в реальности, точнее, что происходило с двигателем в реальности, когда ограничения были превышены, всегда будет открытым, потому что данных мы на данный момент не находили.
So the main question is what should happen with an engine when you run it on maximum power longer than it was allowed. This question would always be open question because we don't have certain data on what must or should happen in this case.
Но если говорить о рандомности этих повреждений, то рандомность существует уже и сейчас. Например, вы можете по превышении 5-минутного режима работы двигателя получить повреждение двигателя через 2 минуты, а можете через 10.
So there is a randomness and these restrictions already. For example, when you exceed, let's say, 5 minutes limit on an engine, the engine may broke 2 minutes after that or 10 minutes after that.
Конечно же, хотелось бы иметь больше вариативности, собственно, что за повреждение мы получаем. И правильно было озвучено, что хотелось бы иметь детонацию. И это одна из фичей, которых мы хотим сделать в будущем.
As it was mentioned before, we would like to add more variation in what happens after the engine limit is spent. For example, we want to implement engine detonate. I don't know the exact term. Detonation when engine starts
pre-ignition
to...
and detonation.
What?
Pre-ignition and detonation.
Yes, something like this. We want to implement this in the future.
Thank you.
Таким образом, Джейсон абсолютно прав. Вопрос будет всегда дискутируемым, но убирать вообще ограничения на работу двигателя на предельных режимах не является путем к реалистичному воздушному бою в игре.
So, as Jason said, this question will remain open, perhaps forever. But I don't think that removing these restrictions entirely would lead us to a realistic simulation of a World War II combat in the air.
Thank you, Snacks, and that's all.
So we have a disagreement, Daniel and I, about possibly what to do, but primarily I'm open to any solution that makes people happy. I want realism, but as we know, this question is completely unanswerable in 100% accuracy. So I also don't want the team to spend 1,000 man-hours trying to solve this issue when we have other things to build. So chances are the guys will continue to tweak it, and there will continue to be some kind of limits, maybe more randomness, maybe different types of engine failure like Daniel's talking about. So we'll see what happens on this topic, but as you can tell, it's not an easy one to come up with the right answer. So let's move on with that. I forget who asked that question, but thank you.
Thank you as well.
Okay. Who asked that question? Was it cute kitten? But
yes. Well, it's my brother's account.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's go to the next question. Okay, Neil, you say you have 3 quick questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, so I am living in France. So first, thank you for your wonderful work for this superb sim. So my first question will be about Il2. So will we have the copilot station to see the right side of the plane because the cockpit is really wide? Then will the turret of the Il2 be optional since we have official civil skins? So can you answer this question? And I have another quick question.
Okay, Neil, I'm really sorry. I didn't understand the question. Can you please repeat it? My apologies.
I'm sorry. No, it's me.
No,
so,
it's me. Go ahead.
So my first question is about Il2. So the Junkers 52.
The Junkers, okay. Okay.
So will we have the copilot station to see the right side of the plane?
Oh, you mean the co-pilot seat.
Yeah, because the cockpit is really very wide, so it's hard to see the right side from the pilot perspective.
Okay, Daniel, do we plan on implementing the seat? Can you jump into it on the co-pilot side? I don't think we are.
In which plane?
The Ju-52.
Oh, co-pilot. Co-pilot feature is a good thing to have, but I'm afraid that we will create it a little bit later after Kuban.
Well, he's talking about not necessarily to fly the plane, but to be able to visually see the right side of the aircraft. Like you can sit in the seat, but you're not controlling the plane from that seat. You're just using it to look out the right side window. Like we just add a camera there.
It's not very easy because actually there will be a body of non-player controlled co-pilot, and camera will move into his body, and this will not looks very right. So actually we need copilot role, and I hope one day we will create it. Anyway, like in Henkel, like in Junkers 88, you will have wide camera moving limits inside the cockpit. So this allows you to see gauges which are located on the right side of the cockpit.
Okay, so we're making up for that limitation by allowing you to essentially move the camera wide to the right so you can see out the window.
Okay,
correct?
Thank you. Awesome.
Oh, okay, now next question.
So next question about the time to you. So it's about the turret. Will it be optional since we have official civil skins?
Daniel, is the rear turret going to be optional on the Ju-52?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so you can make a civilian skin for the Ju-52 but not have the gun turret.
Of course, and we already have made some Lufthansa skins.
That's right, that's right. Okay, so there you go, Neil.
Okay, thank you. Last question is about the turret handling. So the turret in bombers, I found a lot of difficulties to use them compared to the original IL2. So will it be possible to simplify the handling of them, like remove the turret rotation speed limitation, like the auto reload feature on MG15 in ICANN 111, 1K for aiming down gun sight, and change station for human gunner in multiplayer.
You want us to simplify the system?
Yeah, because like I found it very hard to handle in combat.
Well, here's the thing. If we simplify it, we'll complain that we made it in arcade game like War Thunder. If we keep it complicated, some people like you think it's too complicated. The right answer is we can't make it exactly how it was if you're actually in the aircraft, so we try to find some kind of compromise. In our turret system, you have to grab the turret like you would in real life. You grab it with your hands, and then you can either just swing around the gun and shoot in a general direction, or you can put your face up to the gun and try to use the gun sight for more accurate shooting. Is it a perfect system? No, but we think it's more realistic than if we went the other way, like with the original IL-2, where you just hopped in the gun turret, you're already lined up with the gun sight, and you just start blasting away. I remember back in the original IL-2, there was a question about adding the limitations, and you mentioned it in your question, to add the limitation of the real life swinging or rotation of the turret. I think that if we did away with that limitation, there'll be a lot of complaints because we're trying to be a simulator. We're trying to have realistic limitations to the combat. So again, we'd have to make all of this optional. We'd have to make a whole new system and have you be able to choose one system or the other. And it's just, that's a lot of work. So to answer your question, I don't think we'll be changing the mechanics of the gun turret system anytime soon. I like it realistic. I think most people do, but there's always going to be some that don't. But it's another one of those decisions we have to make which way we're going to go because we can't make everything optional. But I think right now the system works, but there might be bugs in the current system. So if you see a bug that prevents you from actually using the system the way it's designed, please let us know so we can investigate. I know that there were some problems with the turrets and the guns on the Ju-88 recently that I think we fixed, but there's always going to be limitations on what we can build for you. But if there's actual bugs in the system that make the playing of the gun turret impossible or really unpleasant, please let us know. If you just don't like the system, sorry, but I don't think it's going to change.
Also,
Okay.
I want to add, make some addition. For now, controlling turrets in our game is in most cases is much easier than in reality, because let's take up a turret of Henkele, yes, and now you firing at a target which is on left and too low from your plane, yes, and a new target have appeared which is from right from the which is to right from your plane and in upper hemisphere. In reality, you got to drop your machine gun, you got to hold a special lever on the turret base, turn all the turret base using your legs to another side, when you should use other lever to raise the frame of the turret. And after that you have set your base to new sector, you put you get your gun into your hands and then aiming to the target. And for now you're just using the mouse. So actually it's already very simple to control our turrets in comparing to reality, and we already have some claims from guys that it's not very realistic.
So as you can see, it's we're stuck in another pickle. But thank you for the questions, Neil. I hope that answers them for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It answers it a lot. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, so let's see here. Neil had a question. Jungle, can we hope for the emergence of a unique planes numbers in network game? Okay, I'll answer that question even though you wrote it in the text. Essentially, we'd have to build that system to add numbers on top of the skin that's already in the game. We've talked about this as a possibility for the future if we can create an invisible decal layer like the original IL2 had, where you could transpose numbers or other images onto the existing paint job. It's possible, but we haven't spent any time building it, and we don't know if and when we can do that. We want to explore this issue further, and it actually, in our schedule, there is some time to look at this issue. So I'm hoping that investigation will yield some answers, and we can look at possibly adding that feature in the future. Daniel, did you have any comments on that idea?
No, I have nothing to add. I see a good question from ATM 801.
Okay, it's in Russian, so I can't read it, but go ahead. So, Jungle, I hope that answers your question. Go ahead about ATM 801's question.
So the question is, will there a possibility to add different objects in mission editor, objects which were created by community, historical objects or maybe not very historical objects like cones or obstacles for some kind of competitions, Red Bull and so on.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, you want to answer it?
So the answer that we already have this ability, and some guys have already used this ability and already created their own objects and added them to their missions. So it's all up to you guys. All is not very hard. It is not very hard to do, and if you really want this, you may go ahead and do this.
Okay, so let me expand upon that because it's a little different. So in our plan, we want to release some instructional SDKs for how to add vehicles, objects, ships, and things of that nature, except for airplanes and maps. It is possible, just like it was with Rise of Flight, to make models and objects and animate them and drop them into the engine. As you recall with Rise of Flight, there were people who did that to great effect, and it's possible with Sturmovik. The question is, something changed a little bit between Rise of Flight and Sturmovik. Like for instance, if you take the models that were imported into Rise of Flight and you drop them into Sturmovik, they don't appear, they don't work. So something small has changed, and at least in the West, obviously there's some Russian folks who have figured this out. Whatever that change is, we haven't published how to do that yet, but we're planning to. So if you can figure it out on your own already and use a little plugin that we have to make your model ready for importation into the game, you can do that already. But if you don't have the plugin or you don't know how to prepare your model for importation into the game, then you can't do that yet. But we want you to do it. It's part of our plan for the future, and we support people who make cool things for importation into the game, especially vehicles, static objects, buildings, scenery, objects, anything that can add to the atmosphere of the game for mission builders or for campaign makers or for us. We're certainly open to it. We just don't have time to hold your hand and show you how to do everything, or to pay you necessarily for your work. But if the community wants to make cool stuff and import it into the game as scenery or a vehicle or something that enhances the game, we're all for it. We just haven't had time to explain to you how to do it, or to explain the differences between Rise of Flight and Sturmovik. But it is possible, as Daniel mentioned, and other people have figured it out somehow, but even I'm fuzzy on how they figured it out. But we will get to the point where everybody, both in the West and the East, can add new objects to the game. So just to expand upon what Daniel already said. Daniel, we never figured out what the change was, did we?
No, we just used another exporter tool for 3D Max.
Okay.
And file structure was changed. Config files lays in other places.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so to the public who's listening, we'll work that out so people can add objects. Okay, let's go to the next question. Thank you for that question, 801. Okay, Custard, you have another couple questions?
Thank you, Jason. Just a couple of quick questions. First one is, I'm wondering if you can maybe shed any more light on co-op mode and timescales, etc. And the other question is, obviously with DX11, I'm wondering if textures will be improved in-game or maybe with a mods on mode. The reason I ask that is because obviously with the limitations of the engine and what have you, the damage decals in particular are not exactly pleasing. Overall, the graphics are wonderful, but there's certain little quibbles in the graphics which could do with some work. So I'm wondering if maybe with DirectX 11 we'll get better decals or better skins or better reflections, or we'll have to wait for the mods on for that.
Okay, and then the other part of your question was about the co-op. Okay. All right, well, about co-op, it's coming in 2017, and the time frame for that, my dated schedule, but I'm sure it's about the same. Help me out, Daniel. When's co-op coming? In the springtime?
1 second.
In my schedule, I can't seem to.
In beginning of the summer.
Beginning of summer, right. Okay, so co-op, will, chances are it'll be available beginning of summer 2017, Custard. It'll be very similar to what you have with Rise of Flight. So that's a pretty powerful, flexible system. You can do all kinds of great stuff in the mission editor, so it should be fun. So that hopefully answers that part of your question. The other part is the DX11 textures. We do plan to add the ability to make larger textures for aircraft and vehicles, and I'm not sure about the ground textures, but we're going to add the ability, at least the plan is to add the ability to use much higher textures because of the X11 and how memory is used. Whether or not, well, chances are we won't have the time to do the textures ourselves. So in this case, we're thinking about making it optional. You can use higher textures or not. If you want to use higher textures, somebody in the community will have to make the textures. Now, whether or not that is going to be part of the mods on mode or mods off mode, I don't know, because it's just textures. So I don't think it necessarily has to be in mods on mode. It can just be an option that you check off in the game itself. Or you don't even have to check a box. You just have to replace a texture. But that does beg the question, if you're replacing textures, do you need to have mods on mode? And with Rise of Flight, that is a yes. And when I say textures, I don't mean skins. I mean like cockpit textures or vehicle textures. So maybe it will have to be in mods on mode, but I hope not. Maybe there's a way we can do it without having it be part of mods on mode. The question just is, do we have the time to make 4K textures for skins, let's say? The answer is no, we don't. So it might have to be a community effort to make higher textures. So to answer your question is, some of that is open, but we'll have to figure it out as we go. But the option to do that is available. Like for instance, with Rise of Flight, you can already make larger textures for things. I know that we've done that in the past. Had a texture pack that was larger textures for different objects. But for this, for World War II, we want it to be more or less an official feature. But how those textures get made and how you can see them is kind of an open question. So I hope that answers your question. Daniel, do you have anything you wanted to add on that topic?
No. I think only thing which we should add about this ability to create 4K skins for airplanes will be presented in next update.
Oh, okay. Super.
Where is
breaking news? Breaking news.
It's directly linked to DirectX 11.
DirectX 11. Okay. So guys, get ready to make 4K skins for airplanes in the next update. Everything else, texture-wise, cockpits, vehicles, stuff like that, will have to be figured out at a later date. So a good test will be to do 4K airplanes first.
Thank you, Jason and Han. Thank you.
Jason, there is a question. There is a question for you. Which is your attitude to community events like recent aerobatic competition, which is not in mainstream of our game, because our game is about air combat, but it's what is your attitude for such events?
Oh, I have no problem with it. Anything that can be done with our engine that somebody wants to play with, doing air racing or aerobatic competition or an air show or anything like that, I'm perfectly fine with. Remember when we were talking about, when we were doing the smoke, right, for airplanes, and I asked you to add the different colors and
including
all that
black
kind of stuff, including black smoke. So we, I like adding the ability for people to experiment and do different types of competitions or online events. I have absolutely no problem with that, as long as it doesn't detract from our combat system. So if it's a separate thing that doesn't affect combat, I'm all for it. But if you're asking me to choose between, do we want to make Red Bull Air Racing game or combat, I'll always say I want to do combat. But I'm all for community events that showcase our engine and what can be done with it. I have absolutely no problem with that. I support it. Cool?
Okay.
Jason, sorry, didn't we just skip a question from guy called 00
00?
section? 00 section. I think he had a question.
Okay, okay, well go ahead. What's the question? And then I'll come back to Super and Tenard. I'll get to you in just a moment. Go ahead, Stinksy. What was the question?
I mean, 00 section wrote in the chat that he has a question, but we may have skipped it.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, 00 section. Sorry about that. I see it now.
Right. Thank you. My username is Retriever in the forum, and I just wanted to also thank you, Jason, and the team for the great sim. I understand that this is not probably the most or easiest money making and nor the easiest genre just to develop. So thank you for that.
No problem.
I guess my question there.
Well, first, where are you from?
I'm from South Korea.
Okay. Oh, really? Cool. All right. What city? Seoul?
Seoul.
Okay.
But I'm
super.
currently living in Singapore.
Oh, okay. You're in Singapore. Gotcha. Okay. What's your question?
So I guess my question is all related. Yes, my first question is about the Midway. I understand that the battle itself lasted a few days, and if you are to make a campaign out of the 3-day battle, how do you envision making like a career out of the battle that lasted 3 days? And I guess the follow-up question, which is related, is that how will the campaign be say persistent, like continuous? So like on a day 1, you sink like 3 carriers, and day 2, will it be like a complete reset, or will you be seeing like 3 less carriers on the opposite side? And I guess the third question, which is also related, talking about number 3, triple monitors. Do you still plan to I guess support the 3 triple monitors? I understand that right now it's supported, but somewhat limited.
Right. Okay, let me address the monitors first. Yes, that's in our plan. I've asked our lead programmer to make a quote-unquote proper implementation of triple monitor support. Yes, the solution we have right now is not ideal, but now that we have DirectX 11, I'm hoping that being able to draw 3 screens at once is more feasible, because you have to have 3 renderers running at once for each screen. If you want to get a wider view of the landscape. Right now, our current solution is we've just narrowed the ratio of the screen so it to fit across 3 monitors. But we're only using one renderer to do that, and that's not really what true triple monitor support is. So I've asked our lead programmer to put it in the plan. It's in the plan. Hopefully it won't take him very long to make the necessary updates, but the first step is to get DX11 out and then get the VR support properly built, and then we're going to do things like triple monitor and rear view mirror technology and things like that. So triple monitor is in the plan. I just don't have a strict ETA on when that's going to happen. Also, about career for Midway. Yes, it's a challenge because the battle was relatively short, and our current career system is not necessarily persistent. However, certainly you could make a career, albeit shorter than say the Eastern Front. But I also think that we are going to balance that with a very interesting single-player scripted campaigns, which could really, assuming we can make enough ships and add enough detail to to the fleets, we could really make a historically accurate depiction of the battle using a scripted campaign mode. So that might, at least of what I'm planning, is that it's going to be a balance out normal career mode that may be shorter or be different and not exactly recreate the Battle of Midway in its exact historical accuracy, because our career mode can't really do that. It's more geared towards land battles, so we'll probably have to adapt it somehow to make an interesting campaign mode. And that's another reason why we're also looking at Okinawa, because Okinawa is a more traditional battle with a sizable landmass where armies were battling on the ground, and we can make the career mode more or less follow history. So Midway poses a challenge, but you got to remember, Midway was an important battle, albeit it only lasted a few days, but it was a very interesting battle because it was evenly matched on both sides. It was a turning point of the war. The battle could go either way, so when you fly it, either in career mode in some way or in the campaign mode, the battle might turn out differently because your guys are unable to destroy the enemy ships, or maybe the Japanese can actually win the battle this time by playing our game and using different tactics, or using differently designed campaign missions to change the outcome of the battle. So I'm looking forward to those kind of options for single player. But yeah, the career poses a challenge, but maybe we can make it a bit persistent. But we'd have to talk to Daniel and talk to the guys about what's possible. Good question. It's something that needs to be worked on, but Midway offers more interesting gameplay than I think what some people are realizing. And remember, we have to have a gateway to our ocean technology, and just going to some place like Guadalcanal or New Guinea really doesn't push us in that direction. Battle of Midway does, and then once we have all that technology built and have the ships and can recreate those kinds of battles, then we can go to Okinawa and add the land element to the ship element and have a big historical battle. And then after that, we can decide where we want to go. Do we want to go back? Do we want to go back to Eastern Front? Do we want to go somewhere else? Do we want to stay in the Pacific? But now we have, at that point, we have all the technology we need to create ocean battles, land battles, air battles. So it's a building process. We go one step at a time, to build up a really robust engine. So Daniel, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Only thing that I want to add with my dream is Okinawa.
Okay. So Daniel really likes Okinawa, but okay. Jason really likes Midway, so we'll have to just, I guess, find a way to do both, which is already in the plan. So we'll get there. But thank you for the question, 00 section. Is there anything else? Thank you for contacting us from Singapore. I think that's great. I think I answered your questions, but do you have anything else?
No, that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, cool. Anybody else here? Okay, we missed him. We can get back to section. Super Entenard, I promised you. What do you got for us? He's here. Did he leave?
I think he said he had to go eat.
Ah, bummer. Sorry, he was waiting so long. Sorry about that, dude. Luca.
Yes, I'm here. I'm from Germany, around Frankfurt area.
Cool.
So my question is about modding support. You mentioned it earlier, like for example replacing in-game sounds of aircraft or cockpit textures. Have you come to a conclusion if you want to include this for the future of IL2?
For mods on?
Yes, mods on mode,
yeah,
basically.
I'm fine with sounds being replaced in mods on mode because I know that there are people who don't like our gun sounds or other sound issues. So in the plan is to allow the sounds to be manipulated in mods on, but not in mods off. So I think that would give people the freedom that they want to change the environment to their liking. Being able to change the sounds in the original IL2 was a big feature that a lot of people played around with. So I have no problem with that. What I'd like to see is people change the radio chatter to something I can understand. So that would be something I'd look forward to for mods on. So I'm definitely sounds, and again, going back to the question about high-res textures for like cockpits and stuff, which I'd like to see, but do we allow that to happen in mods off, or do we only allow it in mods on? So right now, to do that, it would have to be mods on, but maybe there's a way to do it mods off. I don't know. So we'll have to talk to Daniel more about that.
But easy solution is if someone will show us great new textures for cockpits in mods on, we may just include them to our official version.
Yep, that's right. That's possible too. But the trick is first to have the capability for large textures, which, as Daniel suggested, is coming very soon, at least for skins. We'll start there.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Cool.
My personal wish is to have some mods being included for multiplayer in mods off mode, maybe in future, and only a few selected mods that are not cheating or anything like that. But I don't know if you can make that happen. So I'm thankful either way.
Sure. In the original, or in Rise of Flight, we had a mods. You could still do multiplayer in mods on mode. So you could still play multiplayer, no problem. It's just a matter of you had to find a server that allowed it. And unfortunately, not a lot of people allowed it. So it was not as popular as we thought it might be. But maybe in World War II, and if people make really cool mods, you can do a mods on multiplayer server. Again, cheating is a concern. We don't want people to cheat. But I'm not, I don't know how you would cheat with mods on because it didn't really happen with Rise of Flight, so I don't know how it would happen here, but we'll have to see what mods on brings us, I guess. But thanks for the question. Good questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, Stuka, see, we're going on 2.5 hours at this point. We can probably go another half hour and do 3 hours again. Let's see what else we got here. McVac, I don't even know how to pronounce your name, dude. Go ahead, if you're here.
So, what's the thing? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're a little quiet, but go ahead.
Okay, let's get that. So,
how do I pronounce your call sign, though? Mick?
Some kind of McCrack.
Okay.
I don't know either.
It's a tongue twister. Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Alright, so there was a question earlier about Neil. He asked if there could be a co-pilot in the J52, and the answer was a bit later, but I was wondering if it's at least possible to just add another co-pilot module so it doesn't feel so lonely in the cockpit. I think it would be a nice addition.
I think we're planning that. Daniel, we're going to have a co-pilot model in there, right?
Yes, you will.
We'll see the dude.
In Junkers 52, you will see non-player character, your co-pilot. He will sit in right of you. He will have animations, and he will be able to die, and he will be able to bail out from the plane in case if it was shut down.
There you go.
And the same history with Boston bomber, where there is a bomber navigator, which have no any turret, but it should be modeled.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking this up. Okay, Super Antenard, he had to go eat. Looks like, see here. I'm looking for more Tamuri, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Right, where are you from?
Finland.
Finland, right, that's what I thought. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so can we expect some improvement in the dedicated server performance in the near future?
Well, that's best answered by Daniel. Daniel, do you have any comments about D-Server?
Oh, Snexy, are you here?
Fell asleep.
I'm here.
Guys, I will speak in Russian because it's a hard question.
Go ahead, bud.
Так, пока мы работали над DirectX 11, наш неугомонный ведущий программист провел очень важный эксперимент по оптимизации потока симуляции.
While we were working on DirectX 11 implementation, our lead programmer he took some steps on optimizing the entire simulation routine.
Это был эксперимент, его результаты пока не попадут в апдейт, потому что там надо очень много сделать, чтобы это все правильно работало.
For now, this was an experiment. Its results won't make it into next update because we need to make still make many things to implement this right.
Но результаты этого эксперимента показывают нам, что после битвы за Кубань у нас будет принципиальная возможность увеличить производительность физического движка, включая машинки, самолеты и все это прочее, где-то раза в 3 на многопроцессорных машинах.
But this experiment showed that theoretically, after Battle of Kuban release, so we still have a long time until this. After the Battle of Kuban release, theoretically we can boost the physical engine performance, including all kinds of objects like vehicles, ships, tanks, airplanes, boost it so much that its performance will be like tripled. So it will be like 3 times more efficient than now.
Но это огромная работа, она по своему объему больше, чем переход на DirectX 11, и будем надеяться, что битва за Кубань принесет нам возможность этой работой заняться.
This performance improvement would come from multi-core CPU's usage, but this is a tremendous amount of work. Much more work than implementation of DirectX 11, so we are hoping that Battle of Kuban sales would be good enough to give us the means to do this after the Battle of Kuban.
Okay, so we obviously have our foot in the door on even better performance, utilizing better CPU usage, both for D-Server and for the game itself. So, you know, as Daniel says, some things that we initially investigate look very promising, but it takes time to prepare it for official release or for beta. And some things like multi-core expansion beyond what we currently have, you know, it takes work, so it takes time. So in the current plan, D-Server probably won't be changed much, but in the future we have an idea on how to improve overall performance of everything.
Okay, I'm a patient man. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
But that's only about performance. Snexy, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Продолжим. Соответственно, это то, что касается производительности. А есть еще серьезная тема, связанная с многопользовательской игрой. Это стабильность передачи данных, асинхроны и всякие лаги и прочее.
But what I just said, it concerns the raw performance of physical engine. But in case of multiplayer, there is also another important question of synchronization between the players, net transport protocol and such same things.
И здесь у нас есть понимание, что надо сделать. Нам необходимо написать нижний уровень сетевой подсистемы фактически заново, потому что он уже, в общем-то, устарел. И мы планируем это сделать либо в самом конце работы над битвой за Кубань, или сразу после.
Snakes?
Snakesy?
Yes, sorry. So we plan to rework the base level of net transport protocol, which is essential for these changes, and we hope to do this either in the end of Battle of Kuban development or immediately after that.
Wow, okay.
And that's all.
Okay, all right, thanks, Daniel.
Okay, thanks.
So as you can see, there's room to improve, and we plan to improve. It's just fitting into the schedule. But our lead programmer, our engineers have been spending more and more time looking at things to optimize and ways to improve. And since I've come on board, I've made improvement of performance a larger priority than it was before. So I think you'll start to see the benefits of that, starting with DirectX 11, moving in that direction of improved performance. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Tamuri, okay. Okay. Toxin, you wanted to talk about VR? You there? You have a question? Nope. Toxin's gone. All I'll say about, he's there, but I don't hear him. With regards to VR, we're working on it. I had a long discussion with our lead programmer about it, and basically, because of DirectX 11 and the improved performance, we expect the VR experience to be much better, but there will always be inherent problems with VR and flight simming, because flight sims simply do not run at 140 frames a second or 90 frames a second for the most part. So the slowdown that you see when you wear the current implementation is not necessarily a function of us not implementing VR correctly. It's a function of performance. Because the higher the frame rate, the quicker everything's going to move, and the less nauseous and disorienting the experience will be. But we're obviously got the DirectX, so now we can work on VR. I'm confident we'll have a good implementation, at least in the cockpit. What I'm not confident on is how the GUI is going to perform with the VR. So you may not want to put on those goggles until you're actually in the cockpit. So I'm not sure how that's going to work exactly. That remains to be seen, but we're going to do our best to do a good implementation of in the cockpit for sure. But again, if your system can't do 90 frames a second, you may not have the best experience. And I know some people will say, oh, well, in other flight sims, it's fine. But other flight sims don't have certain things that we have. We're using very modern shaders. We're using we're doing lots of physics calculations, ballistics, damage, all that kind of stuff. So All of those things impact performance. Although with DirectX 11 we're seeing much better performance, but when you start having to draw everything twice, it does have an effect on performance. So, but we're confident VR will be pretty good, and we'll of course do our best to improve it over time if there's a problem. But I haven't seen it really, other than our current implementation. I haven't seen what the final presentation or implementation is going to look like. So I don't really have any comments because right now I'm projecting, based on my conversation with our lead programmer. So, but it's coming. So I would say the order of the day is to be cautiously optimistic about VR, and don't judge us until you actually try our next implementation of it.
Hey Jason, this is Toxin. Thanks for answering that question. I was having some issues with my mic, so apologize.
No problem.
Hey, thank you for that. And I just wanted to know, are you going to be supporting CV1's Oculus as far as their SDK, or are you going to be using a Steam VR type of general API for the first implementation?
I talked to lead programmer, and we plan on supporting both units. Or actually, there's three, I guess, avenues. There's the Steam VR support for Vive, and then there's the Oculus SDK, and then there's an open source VR. And as far as I know, we plan on supporting all three. How exactly that's done, I don't know, but our lead programmer is obviously aware of all that, and we have Vive and a Oculus unit to work with. So I don't expect a problem between the different makers of headsets. If there's some kind of difference in their SDKs, then I guess we would need to find out what those are and deal with them. But I guess Vive, let's put it this way, the folks, that's a long story. I don't want to get into it, but we've gotten recent support from Vive or Steam with headsets. With Oculus, I've had to purchase them, and they haven't talked to us in a long time. So, but we're gonna support both, or all three, I should say, as far as I know. Again, until we start actually testing it in beta, it's hard to say.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So VR. Okay, Atlan, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Jason. I'm talking from Germany.
Oh, hi.
Jason, I have a very easy question. How many people are now on the team nowadays?
Daniel, do you want to answer that question? It's 20 plus, but it kind of shrinks and grows, and we have some people who work remotely, and we have some people in the office. So I always forget the exact number.
Okay, so is this
a couple
changing?
dozen. Hold on.
Question is how many team members we have?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
23.
23 full-time people on the team, but we contract with we have some model makers that we contract with, and I also have people that occasionally do stuff for me from the community. So they're occasionally part of the team if they're working on something. So it fluctuates, but Daniel's right. As far as full-time people who work for us, it's 23 people. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not including upper management.
Okay, I only want to know because of imagination of the old. The second question, I have a very short one. When we look after the Pacific War, but it's still a long time to look this after, but is there a chance to see air war over Germany 1944, 1945? What do you think?
For me, it's not as interesting a time period, only because the war was ending, and the Luftwaffe was essentially beaten in a lot of ways. We also don't have the ability to model 800 or 1,000 bombers in the sky at the same time. So there's all these technical issues that people will complain about. Of course, though, people would like to fly the ME-262 or the the Salamander. I mean, there's jets, the Arado jet bomber. I mean, there's some cool things that happened at the end of the war. It's just how, can we model Berlin? I mean, it's a big thing to do. You know what we had to do with Moscow, which doesn't please everybody. So modeling the battlefield over Germany at the end is difficult. Oh, Ricardus, please mute your mic. Thank you. So there's all these questions about the battle space and how we could model it, but I'm not against it. I just, personally, it's not my favorite era, but doesn't mean it wouldn't sell a bunch of copies, but we'll just have to see. That's a long way to think out,
Okay, thanks a lot.
Hey, no problem. What we got next here? We got 15 more minutes to hit 3 hours. I don't mind going longer. It's just I know that Daniel and Sneaksy, it's the evening time in Moscow, and they probably want to spend time with their family. Cartoon, do you have a question? Cartoon, are you there? Go ahead. Cannot hear you, my friend. Your mic is not working. We'll have to come back to you. I'm sorry, 1 second, guys. I'm reading something. Okay, Clunk asked a question in chat. I won't make him say it because his mic's not working well. He has a question about Midway and possibly adding different cloud layers. I've talked to Daniel about this in the office about different cloud layers, and it is possible for us to do different cloud formations, but it does take some work. In our current cloud technology, we recently added the ability to move the clouds to different altitudes, which is cool. But as far as having a full-on layered and dynamic cloud formations is another thing altogether. Daniel, do you have any comments on the clouds in the future?
If we talk about several cloud layers, we have it in plan for Battle of Kuban.
Okay. What about big, gigantic cumulus clouds that go up high into the atmosphere like you see in real life?
Oh, thunderstorm clouds, yes?
That, or, yeah, cirrus, not cirrus, I forget the different clouds, cumulus clouds, big puffy ones.
I'm not sure. We are too big.
Okay. So we're going to have more cloud layers, but as far as the cloud shapes, we don't have a clear answer for you. Let's go down.
Cartoon have asked the question in
Korea.
chat.
Yes, I see it.
Question to you.
Okay, Cartoon, you asked about looks like Korea. There's a chance in the future we'll go to Korea and do jets. Daniel really wants to do it, and I'm not opposed to it. It would be relatively easy to make a plane set for Korea that covers all of the main types that flew in the area, but that's going to be several years out if we get there. But we're not against it. Sabre versus MiG is always popular. F-84 Navy jets versus MiGs is always fun. Obviously if we have the aircraft carrier technology from the Pacific, so you could fly Corsair missions over North Korea or South Korea. So it's a possibility that we could go there, but I'm not going to say we are for sure, but it's an open question. So I hope that answers your question, Cartoon. Okay, Mikvac, you have another question?
He had to go eat too.
Oh, he had to go eat too. Okay. Trying to make sure I don't forget anybody here. might be at the end if nobody has any more questions. I see Cute Kitten asking complex weather thermals, ridge lift. Okay, Daniel, do we have any? How does the? We don't. I don't know. I know we have the capability, but do we model like thermals and ridge lift and things like that for mountainous areas? Like with gliding.
Once again, I have not totally understand you.
You know, if like when you have a mountainous environment, there's a lot of different phenomenons that happen with the wind and with thermals and the air coming off of ridge lift, vertical air, stuff like that.
Vertical winds in mountains.
Yeah.
Oh, I think not, because as you know, Andrew timeline is very tight.
Mm-hmm.
But he always dreaming about this. Also, these effects are presented below the big clouds, as you know. So if one day we will create it, it will be good.
Okay, so to answer the question, Cute Kitten, it's possible, but we don't have time to do it yet. But we would like to do it. Okay, another question is drop tanks. Custer, do you have a text question real quick about drop tanks? We want to do drop tanks, but we have to redo the fuel system to support drop tanks. For Pacific, of course, they use drop tanks extensively. On the Eastern Front, it's less of an issue, but obviously the 109 had drop tanks. I wish we had built drop tank support in the beginning of Sturmovik, but we didn't, so we don't have it at the moment. But I want to build it. I've talked about it with the team. It's in the list of items that Daniel wants to work on with Petrovich to build the support for drop tanks. But because we lost an engineer last year, we don't have as much time to work on these cool features, but we're going to try. Daniel, do you have any comments on drop tank possibility in the future? Any?
It's in short list of supposed features for flight model, so I think one day it will be.
So one day, but we don't know exactly when, because we have to work on that whole fuel system as we discussed.
We have 3 months of Andrei Petrovich for different features in Battle of Kuban, and we will have a hard choice what we will do in these 3 months. Maybe it will be fuel system, or maybe it will be G-affecting, realistic G-affecting on pilot, on maybe some kind of other stuff. I don't know. We got to choose.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, I know we have that window. So guys, these are the kind of challenges we face. We have one super talented engineer who can build all of these realistic features that you guys want, but he also needs to split his time between doing that and building the super realistic flight models that you guys want. So it's difficult, but we'll do our best to make as many cool features in the engineering department as possible. Do we have any other questions? We got a couple more minutes. I don't see anybody else in the list. Custer, go ahead and ask your question. What is it? Yeah, the first custard. Do any custards? Talk about rain effects.
Sorry, hello.
Okay.
Jimmy? Yeah.
Yep.
I was just wondering, since you mentioned, I think it was in the Battle of Kuban announcement thread, there was a desire to implement rain effects on the canopy if it was possible, and you were going to look into that. Have you made any inroads towards that?
It's possible, and it's in our list of things to do. But that's up to Sergey, our lead programmer, to build that support. And he's wrapping up the DX11 support and the VR support. I gave him a list of things that I wanted done, like new special effects for rain effects on the canopy, rear view mirror technology, proper triple monitor support, and a bunch of other stuff. So the two big things were DX11 and VR. And once we get past those, then we can look at doing these other things.
No, yeah, sure.
It's in the list. No, it's in the list. I just don't have a strong ETA for it. Because in the schedule, we give them a block of time, and we say you can work on these features in this block of time. So how fast he does that, or if he gets to everything, is always a question. But he's been doing some really good work lately with the DX11 and the VR and other optimizations. So I'm really thinking we'll be able to get to that in 2017 for sure. But I could be wrong, but it's like I said, it's in the list.
Thanks, Jason.
It's possible. We don't know what effect on performance it's going to have either.
Yeah,
so,
incidentally, you say that. Do you know what sort of performance effect you're looking that DX11 will have?
I don't want to make any promises. Okay?
No, of course not.
But, and there's different ways to achieve higher frame rate. With the existing limitations on draw distance and the ultra preset, or even the custom presets, if I max everything out and I fly a standard mission with maximum a couple dozen airplanes in the mission with a few dozen tanks and other objects in the mission, on my Intel, I believe it's an i7, but it's the first generation. I have a 980X CPU that's at least 4 years old. I've had it a long time, but it works pretty well. And I have a 2-year-old or 2.5-year-old TX 980 with about, I think I have 64 gigs of RAM on an Asus, I believe it's a Rampage 2 or 3 motherboard. I forget what the chipset is, but I'm in what you would consider a standard like career mission or a standard custom mission with, again, maybe a couple dozen planes flying missions, not all in your face at one time, but flying missions, and a good amount of ground objects. I'm getting frame rate anywhere from 60 to 130. Rarely does it go below 60. So the gains from what we've done recently in the technology department is very noticeable, at least on my system. The guys in the office have been doing their own testing, and the guys in beta have been doing their own testing, and the general consensus is that performance overall has about doubled. So
that's fantastic.
It could be very fantastic. We don't know what's going to happen when thousands of people use this new DirectX for us. Now, it also should state that if you have an older system, maybe a video card that wasn't necessarily designed for DX11, maybe you have like a GTX 680 or something like that, or something, an AMD card of some sort that's older. You may not see as dramatic an increase in frame rate. But since we've moved to 64-bit, and since we've moved to DX11, and Petrovich has added some other optimizations to the game, we think that the large majority of people, 90+% of our users, will see a significant increase in performance. But I can't make promises for everybody because we're going from a few dozen people testing to tens of thousands of people testing. And more than likely, there's going to be problems, there's going to be bugs, there's going to be disappointment, there's going to be excitement. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But right now, I'm very pleased with performance. And what I've done with my system is I've gone from flying with VSync off and limiting the frames, or doing unlimited frame rate, and full screen off. So basically that does a natural syncing of the monitor with your video card. No, I'm sorry, does an unnatural syncing where you can get high frame rate above 60, which is higher than the refresh rate of my monitor. But when you do that, you get some stuttering here and there, especially as the frame rates fluctuate. But I've been flying missions with my my frame rate VSync turned on, with full screen on, with the frame rate locked at 60, or even with the frame rate unlocked, because when you do the VSync, it limits it to the refresh rate of the monitor. It was exceptionally smooth. And in the missions I was flying with a maxed out QMB, my frame rate was pegged at 60 the whole time. It might dip to like 58, 59 frame rate, but it would bounce back up to 60 in just a millisecond. So I'm really pleased at that. So for single player users who fly our new campaign system, or you're flying custom missions, or you're flying the new career in the future, I expect performance to be really smooth and really nice. Now you can always break that by, like we did a test with 50 planes in the 50 AI planes in the mission, and we start to run into limits on what the CPU can handle. That's why eventually building support for multi-core, or expanding our multi-core support, will help in the future with those kinds of issues. But if we keep our perspective to making interesting missions that have a couple dozen planes doing things with several dozen ground objects, with all of our existing presets and customizable graphics options, people with a system like mine should experience much better performance and smoother gameplay. So
no, that sounds.
I'm looking forward to what people experience, because I think it's going to be positive.
That sounds really incredible. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And that's coming soon, guys. So just in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to do that. So let's hope it's a good Christmas present for everybody. Daniel, did you want to add anything to DX11? I think I covered it, but.
Only thing that I made to add what you have said, that in simple situation, like you're flying alone and nobody around you, FPS will not change actually. But in complex scenes like air combat, or maybe takeoff from airfield where many planes around, or something like this, frame rate increases up to twice. So in most problematic scenes, FPS will increase. In not problematic scenes, it will stay as it was.
Okay, so it's a little confusing the way Daniel stated it, but basically, if you're already getting good frame rate flying by yourself, you're going to continue to get really great frame rate flying by yourself. But where the advantages start to become obvious is when you're in a dogfight with a dozen planes around you. Then you're going to start to see a lesser of an impact on performance than you would with the current build. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So again, the advantages will be in more complex scenarios. Your frame rate won't suffer as badly, so you should have a better experience. That's exactly what we've been trying to do. Okay. Well, we've gone over 3 hours. Let me just see if there's any more questions. Okay. Okay, Cartoon, you asked a question about simplified AAA gun operated by the player. That's an idea we want to eventually do, but it's not in the current plan. Just like we had to drop the idea to make a bunch more tanks, making a AAA gun was not put into this plan, but it's possible, but maybe for ships, or maybe for the Pacific, or at a later date. Tripwire, you ask if the development team flies online often, or in multiplayer servers, do you fly incognito? Some of the guys on the team don't fly that much in multiplayer because we work on the game all day and we're a little burnt out. I fly in multiplayer servers occasionally, and I do fly incognito a lot of the time because people like to hit me up for lots of questions. Daniel, do you have any comment? I know Vix used to fly online quite a bit. Do you have any comments about the team's participation?
Gavrik, and Finazipam are flying on occasions in multiplayer.
Right.
Last time we have performed a sortie with free Petlakov 2 and have bombed some warehouses, enemy warehouses on Wings of Liberty. We have had a success and cool achievements. So yes, we're flying in multiplayer sometimes.
Very cool. Okay. And then Q-Kitten, you asked about ROF. God, I'd love to move ROF from the old engine to the new engine, but again, it's like $1 million investment to do all that, believe it or not, and don't have the money or resources to do it. Again, if everybody who bought original IL-2, 2 million people or plus, would buy our current product line, we have plenty of money to do everything. Can't stress that enough. I can't seem to attract more people than I need to fund everything. So it's difficult. Battlefield 1 increased sales. No, because ROF is an older title now. But I would argue that the Battlefield 1 developers probably played Rise of Flight to look at the airplanes and to look at the cockpits for their airplanes and to learn what aircraft actually flew in World War I. That's a guess. I have no proof of that, but when I look at the stuff that they built, I can't help but feel the influence of Rise of Flight, but maybe that's just my ego talking. Okay, I'll do 2 more quick questions. Paterla from Spain writes in the chat, cosmetic thing, oxygen mask for pilots and the ability of the pilot leaving the plane when crash land on the ground and running away from it. Okay, let me talk about oxygen masks. That's something I really want, but it's a small detail that will take up a little bit of time of the team. So I dropped it from Kuban, but it's something I want to do because I think it's cool and important to have a realistic looking pilot flying the plane at high altitude. Daniel and I have discussed it. It takes time of a modeler. It takes time of a programmer. Not a huge amount of time and effort, but enough to where it was hard to squeeze into the existing plan for everything else that we're building. But I hope in Pacific or after Kuban that we can build this little feature because I think it's necessary and cool. About the pilot leaving the plane when the crash and landing, I like that idea, but again, it's something we have to build. It takes up more time. What I don't like, and Daniel and I need to discuss this further, is I want the ability for you, like after you crash, I don't want the mission to end right away. That's been an annoyance for me for a long time. But for me, it's a minor issue that we could probably fix relatively easily. But I need to squeeze it into the plan somewhere, and I've decided that it wasn't something that we needed to tackle right away. But these two smaller items, oxygen masks and the pilot running away from the crash, totally cool, but we have to build it, and I just felt that they weren't important enough to delay all these other big changes that we have to make. So Daniel, I just want to say, do you have any comments about the oxygen masks or the pilot running away from the crash?
No, we just need some resources,
right,
for create animations like running pilot, or oxygen mask tube animation when pilot rotating his head and so on.
Yeah. So those little things add up to time and money that, you know, we have to do a triage. But I want everybody listening to think about, if everybody gets behind Kuban and everybody buys everything that we sell, I know not everybody can afford everything, but if you can do your best to buy the stuff that we offer, we'll have enough money where we can guarantee you that there's going to be Midway, there's going to be Okinawa, there's going to be Kursk, there's going to be Guadalcanal, there's going to be something else, or Korea. We just need your support. And I'm trying my damnedest, and the team is trying their hardest to show you that we can build these things. We're improving the engine. We're optimizing the engine. We're supporting VR. We're doing more and more content. We've added the scripted campaign system. We're building the career system. We're giving you mods on. We're allowing you to import your own objects into the engine. Shit, I mean, there's a million things that we're giving you, and we're completely doing a 180 on the direction that we were headed to simpler, faster, funner, and going back towards hardcore, option-rich, feature-rich, content-rich product. And it worked for the original IL2. Okay? So if you like the original, there's no reason why you shouldn't come and support this series, because we're working in that direction. We're trying to build everything you want. So if you have friends that aren't buying the product, or have listened to stuff from 2 or 3 years ago about how shitty the product was, even though most of it I think was unfounded, but okay, there was criticisms. If there are people who are not getting behind the product, try to get them to take a look at it, because we cannot build all of these great things that you guys want us to build because I don't have the resources. Daniel can only do so much. The guys can only do so much. And they've been busting their ass for you guys for 8-9 years. Even before Rise of Flight was released, they worked for 3 years on the product, or on the engine. So I know that everybody here in this meeting today supports us and likes what we do, but there's a lot of people who have not gotten behind us, or got behind us and then left and never came back. And even though we have a dedicated following and we can predict with relative accuracy how much money our products are going to bring in, so we can build a plan to build new stuff, because I don't have an abundance of revenue where I can expand the team, I can't build all of the things that you want. It's really frustrating. So all I want you guys to know is we're doing our part. We're trying to build something you guys asked for. So please continue to support us, and hopefully we can get to all of these great questions that you guys have asked today. Just right now, it's impossible to build everything. And I'm just going to answer one more question. Toxin asks about rearm and repair. This is rearm, refuel, and repair is something that we've wanted to do for a very long time, but it's not an easy thing to do. And I discussed it with the team, and as of right now, it's not in the current plan, but I will let Daniel address it because he could probably give you a more technical explanation on why it's not available yet.
It's just it's again just a question of hard choice of where we should put Andrew Petrovich time, because it's his work to create RAM repair and refuel feature for airplanes. It's a month of work, so it's a question to us: are we ready to put one of 3 available months of Andrew Petrovich for this feature or not? That's all.
Right, right. So as you can see, guys, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of hard decisions that we have to make during this process. And even though we have a plan that's very detailed, we build in these blocks of time where certain individuals on the team can work on what we call luxury items, things that would be nice to have, but don't have to have for people to enjoy the game. But we try to build the luxury items as when time allows for us to do that. Rearm, refuel, and repair right now is a luxury item. Oxygen masks, luxury item. Pilot exiting the plane and running away, luxury item. Forgetting one that I just mentioned. Drop tanks, luxury item. So all these, what I call luxury items, add up to be like 3-4 months worth of hard work for our team. And when I have to build other features that are missing, more content, stuff like that, it's too much sometimes. So anyways, I'll stop talking about the negative. I want to focus on the positive. We've got some really great stuff coming. We've got a great developer diary coming next week that we're going to write early in the week. And the scripted campaign mode is coming. DX11 is coming. All in time for Christmas. The G4 is coming. And the Tante Jew is coming. So, guys, there's a lot of positive stuff happening. So we hope you're excited. So with that, I'll wrap up the meeting at 3 hours and 15 minutes. So thank you very much for coming, Daniel. And Sneaksy, thank you for your help. I really appreciate it. And we'll call it a day. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. I was glad to see you, everyone here, and I very appreciate your support to our product.
All right, Daniel, Sneaksy, talk to you guys on Monday. Everybody else, have a good night.
Cool.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.